Chapter 182. Although the genie young master was fighting 1 against 2, Lu Ping and Ouyang Weijian were fighting separately. Coupled with the superb swordsmanship of the genie young master, the two of them were in an extremely difficult situation. The 12 pearls began to slowly fly towards the direction of the genie young master. Lu Ping and Ouyang Weijian looked at each other. Although their eyes revealed their vigilance against each other, the two of them quickly cooperated with each other to contend against the genie young master. What Lu Ping cultivated was the North Sea Wave Listening Scripture. With the support of the North Sea Wave Listening Scripture, the 1000 Snow Pile Sword skill created waves of cyan sword energy in the air. Ouyang Weijian cultivated the Xianling sect's Fuyao Scripture, the first true skill of Xianling sect. He could execute the 18 styles of the Merry Wind Sword skill, one after another, turning them into 18 different styles of wind: Clear Wind Sword skill, Gentle Wind Sword skill, Cold Wind Sword skill, Strong Wind Sword skill, Whirlwind Sword skill, Storm Sword skill. The wind helped the waves. The waves showed the power of the wind. The two of them had extraordinary talent in swordsmanship. This was the first time they cooperated with each other, but unexpectedly, they had a tacit understanding with each other. Suddenly, the situation was reversed, and the genie young master's swordsmanship gradually became equal. This time, the genie young master finally seemed a little surprised. He joined his swordsmanship and counterattacked the two. In fact, not only was the genie young master surprised, but even Lu Ping and Ouyang Weijian were a little surprised. The two of them didn't expect that their swordsmanship and cultivation methods seemed to be innately compatible with each other. Unexpectedly, they had reached such a level of tacit understanding. The genie young master stepped up his offensive. Both of them buried their doubts in their hearts and resisted the genie young master's attack with all their strength. At this moment, the surrounding area around the 12 pearls had turned into a world of swordsmanship. Many cultivators were still thinking about the 12 pearls in the air, trying to fish in troubled waters. However, once someone inserted himself into this world of swordsmanship, the boundless sea of swords, countless swordfish, and invisible sword wind all rushed towards the intruder. Most of the cultivators who entered only let out miserable cries before losing their lives. Those who were strong enough and were quick to react quickly retreated the moment they entered, but they couldn't help but lose some of their body parts. They had a lingering fear in their hearts. The fight between the three of them finally attracted the attention of the other forces. Immediately, 5 to 6 ninth layer blood condensation cultivators with unfathomable auras moved towards the three of them. The Jin young master was naturally aware of the surrounding environment. Haha, he laughed and said, "This young master is very happy today, but the person who spoils the fun has come. This young master will take his leave first. When the two of you have formed your Jindan, we will fight again." As soon as he finished speaking, he withdrew his sword, and the soaring swordfish chased after the 12 pearls. Lu Ping and Ouyang Weijian immediately sensed the situation around them. Lu Ping's Qinghan sword flew out, and a cyan blue water flood dragon with a single horn chased after the pearl. Ouyang Weijian was not to be outdone. The flowing wind sword in his hand spun upside down, wrapped in a whirlwind, and chased after the pearls. The three of them collided with each other in the air. 6 of the 12 pearls were pushed by the swordfish and flew towards the Jin young master. The Jin young master did not stop holding the pearls in his hand. He swung his sword backward, and more than 600 swordfish wrapped him in the middle, forming a giant golden fish in the air. The big fish swung its tail backward and flew away. No cultivator dared to block its path. Lu Ping's water flood dragon bit 3 pearls, drew a beautiful curve in the air, and returned to Lu Ping. Ouyang Weijian's whirlwind also swept the other 3 pearls. On the way back to the water flood dragon, a breeze blew by, but the scales on the surface of the water flood dragon fell off, and water splashed in all directions. Lu Ping sneered and thought to himself, "I knew you had this trick up your sleeve." After the Jin young master retreated, Ouyang Weijian took the initiative to attack Lu Ping. The breeze sword of the 18 merry wind swords attacked Lu Ping's condensed water flood dragon. Just when the water flood dragon was about to be destroyed by the breeze sword, Lu Ping's water flood dragon suddenly exploded, and 3 spirit snakes flew out from it. While Lu Ping was stunned, the 3 spirit snakes flew back to Lu Ping with a pearl in their mouths. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the samling disappeared. Then he turned to Ouyang Wei Jian and smiled. Ouyang Wei Jian suddenly felt that something was wrong. 2 tiny needle-shaped magical tools had quietly broken through the air. "Is this all you've got?" Ouyang Wei Jian disdainfully swung his flowing wind sword horizontally. 2 zheng-zheng sounds were heard, and Lu Ping's blood-blue needles were blocked by Ouyang Wei Jian. Just when Ouyang Wei Jian was looking at Lu Ping with a provocative look, a clear and melodious cry was heard. Unknowingly, a giant cyan bird with a wingspan of 7 or 8 feet had broken into Ouyang Wei Jian's whirlwind. A burst of ding-ding sounds were heard, and the giant bird once again broke through the whirlwind's obstruction. Its giant cyan claws were tightly holding the 3 pearls, and it flew towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping saw that the cyan phoenix was injured after flying out of Ouyang Wei Jian's whirlwind sword. While Ouyang Wei Jian was rushing towards the cyan phoenix, Lu Ping had already attacked Ouyang Wei Jian with his Qinghan sword. At the same time, a magic cloud appeared under his feet, and he quickly rushed forward to help the cyan phoenix. Ouyang Wei Jian was blocked by Lu Ping's Qinghan sword, and could only watch as Lu Ping put the injured cyan phoenix into the spirit beast bag. At the same time, the other 3 pearls were also taken by Lu Ping. Lu Ping turned around and put away his Qinghan sword. He smiled at Ouyang Wei Jian, and while a few suspicious cultivators had not surrounded them, he quickly rushed out with the magic cloud. Along the way, there were many cultivators who tried to stop him. Lu Ping used his Qinghan sword to open the way, and the other attacks were blocked by the cloudy sky and his aura shield. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the encirclement and disappeared. Ouyang Wei Jian's face was livid. This was the second time he had fought with Lu Ping in a battle of wits and courage. It was not that he was not strong enough, but he was not smart enough. Ouyang Wei Jian did not dare to stay here any longer. With a wave of his flowing wind sword, he rushed out like a wild wind. Obviously, he wanted to vent the depression in his heart. Fortunately, the cultivators who rushed over knew that he did not get the pearls, so there were not many cultivators who stopped him along the way. In the blink of an eye, Ouyang Wei Jian disappeared. A few suspicious cultivators rushed over. Apart from themselves, no one knew who was a human cultivator and who was a demon cultivator. They looked at each other and then disappeared among the cultivators. At this moment, the 7 Stars Palace that was floating in mid-air rumbled and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Regardless of whether it was in the vicinity or watching from afar, the cultivators in the 7 Stars Palace all felt a sense of loss. At this time, Lu Ping did not have the time to be sentimental. With great difficulty, he got rid of the cultivators near the 7 Stars Temple. Lu Ping did not have time to meet up with Chizitsai and the others. In a remote corner of the 7 Stars Temple, Lu Ping saw Dabao coming to help. Dabao's current figure was comparable to a wild boar. Lu Ping did not stand on ceremony and sat down on Dabao's body. Dabao's head plunged into the ground, and Lu Ping followed Dabao to an underground cave. This cave was obviously just opened up by Dabao. To Dabao, digging holes was a piece of cake. Lu Ping reached out and patted Dabao's head, which was clearly disproportionate to his fat body. He then sat on the spirit-gathering praying mat and began to meditate to recover his magic power. Half a day later, Lu Ping recovered his magic power. When he opened his eyes, he saw the bored Dabao lying on the ground, sleeping. He couldn't help but scold, "You lazy thing, don't you know how to be more vigilant? If someone discovered this cave and came in while I was meditating, we would become meat on their chopping board." Dabao woke up in a daze. The moment it opened its eyes, it was scolded by Lu Ping. It immediately protested and squeaked, saying that the cave it dug would never be discovered by others. Lu Ping also knew that Dabao was actually a smart demonic beast. Otherwise, Lu Ping wouldn't have spent so much effort to raise a spirit-seeking mouse, which was normally not even in the mid-blood refining realm, to the second layer of the blood condensation realm. Just by looking at the location that Lu Ping chose to dig a cave, it was definitely a desolate and secluded place. Coupled with its earth escape technique, ordinary cultivators would definitely not be able to discover them. Lu Ping just wanted it to be careful at all times. He threw a blood spirit pill that was specially refined for Dabao. Dabao was about to break through to the third layer of the blood condensation realm. It was the spirit pet with the lowest cultivation level among Lu Ping's subordinates. However, Dabao didn't mind. Its duty was never to fight. Just like this time, when Lu Ping participated in the battle for the Seven Stars Palace's treasure, he sent Dabao out to look for a hiding place just in case. At the same time, he also told Dabao to pay attention to collecting information about the treasures in the Seven Stars Palace. However, although Dabao's cave was well built, he didn't find many spiritual materials or treasures. Firstly, there were only 3 days left before the Seven Stars Palace closed. Most of the spiritual herbs and materials in the Seven Stars Palace had already been collected by others. Secondly, Dabao's cultivation level was low and he was a coward. He didn't dare to appear in front of others and could only search for treasures in secret. Lu Ping grinned at Dabao and said, "To think that your foundation bloodline is the tiger bloodline. You don't even have a trace of domineering spirit in you. You're worse than a mouse." Lu Ping's ridicule naturally caused Dabao to protest again, causing Lu Ping to laugh out loud. While Lu Ping was hiding underground to enjoy the joy of harvesting and waiting for the Seven Stars Palace to close, the Seven Stars Palace was still immersed in a bloody storm. It was even more intense than before. Although the 49 treasures had their own owners, aside from the big powers, many of them were obtained by small powers and even loose cultivators. These small powers and loose cultivators, regardless of whether they were from the Yarrow clan or the human clan, were all hunted down and forced to hide. Many of the treasures changed hands several times and were eventually obtained by large and medium-sized powers. However, there were also many lucky cultivators who managed to avoid being hunted down and kept their treasures. Immediately after that, several of the large human clan and Yarrow clan forces within Seven Stars Heavens seemed to have come to a tacit understanding. They attacked the secret lodgings of several loose cultivators and small forces at the same time. Most of the cultivators inside were killed and the loose cultivators within Seven Stars Heavens were in danger. They thought that the large sects wanted to eliminate the dissidents and divide the spoils of war among themselves. Chapter 183. After a few forces were wiped out, news slowly spread throughout the Seven Star Skies. It was said that these forces that were wiped out were the secret strongholds of the Overturned Oceans sect. This time, the various forces that entered the Seven Star Skies were harassed by the Overturned Oceans sect. Even if they weren't, many forces would not give up on this opportunity to beat them when they were down. Of course, some of the strongholds might not be filled entirely with cultivators from the Overturned Oceans sect. Instead, the Overturned Oceans sect had mixed in with some of the strongholds. Naturally, the sects that surrounded the strongholds would not distinguish between them. They would simply wipe them out and be done with it. This was the domineering style of the major forces. As for whether there were some forces that used the slogan of wiping out the Overturned Oceans sect to eliminate dissidents, it was not something that outsiders would know. As the initiator, Junling had also surrounded and destroyed 2 strongholds of the Overturned Oceans sect. The astute Chizitsai would naturally not reveal all the information to the major forces. She left the 2 strongholds that were led by Hall Masters from the Overturned Oceans sect to herself. She told the other sects the locations of the unimportant and most important strongholds. Needless to say, the unimportant strongholds were guarded by the Overturned Oceans sect's core forging enlightened masters with their cultivation sealed. Just as Xianling sect, Golden Dragon Island's demon cultivators, and the other major forces went to encircle the strongholds, the enlightened masters from the Overturned Oceans sect had no choice but to unleash their core forging enlightened masters at the last moment. Although it was only one attack, it caused the major forces to suffer heavy casualties. Xianling sect and Golden Dragon Island each had one enlightened master who had to break the seal in order to protect the cultivators of their respective sects. In the end, they were transported out of the Seven Star Skies. After their victory, when the major forces were collecting their spoils of war, they once again discovered to their dismay that the spoils of war were not as much as they had imagined. After interrogating the captive cultivators from the Overturned Oceans sect, they found out that because the enlightened masters with sealed cultivators were guarding the strongholds, all the good treasures from the strongholds were in the hands of the enlightened masters. The others did not have much. On the other hand, the two outposts that Chi Zitzai led Zhenling to encircle brought them a bountiful harvest. In one of the outposts, after the leader of the outposts died, senior brother Cao found a magic treasure that he had plundered from him. In the other outpost, senior brother Sun found a jade box that had clearly flown out from the Seven Stars Palace. It was unknown what kind of treasure it contained. Naturally, Lu Ping didn't know what was happening in the seven-star skies. At this moment, he was holding 6 glowing pearls in one hand and a purple jade scroll in the other. He was carefully reading through the contents of the scroll. This purple jade slip was the jade box that Lu Ping had obtained from Fei Ling Island. He had obtained one of the 2 jade slips after breaking the seal with the restriction-breaking talisman that he had obtained from the auction. This purple jade slip recorded a peculiar but absolutely tyrannical method to refine a life-bound magic tool, the life-bound Zhenchen diagram. Originally, Lu Ping had not thought about what he wanted to refine for his life-bound magic tool. Chen Lian had also told Lu Ping about the importance of a life-bound magic tool. He did not recommend that Lu Ping be in a hurry to refine it. Instead, he suggested that Lu Ping first look for second-grade or even third-grade pure water-attributed top-grade spiritual materials. As long as he succeeded in refining it when he reached the core forging stage, it would not hinder the magic tool from becoming a magic treasure. Although Lu Ping was wealthy and had 20 or 30 top-grade spiritual materials on him, he only had 3 second-grade mutated spiritual materials, deep-sea silver iron, which could be used to improve landslide, a large piece of 1,000-year-old thunderstruck peach wood, which had dual attributes of thunder and wood, which was incompatible with the attribute of Lu Ping's cultivation method, a piece of 1,000-year-old cold jade, which was a second-grade water-attributed spiritual material, was more suitable for making auxiliary magic tools. It could be made into a defensive magic tool, but it would be a joke to make it into an offensive magic tool. Therefore, Lu Ping asked Old Chen to refine it into the top-grade auxiliary magic tool, the psychic jade pendant, which hung on Lu Ping's waist. Now, Lu Ping had a top-grade spiritual material that could be refined into a life-bound magic tool. Not only did he have one top-grade spiritual material that was very compatible with his own attribute, but he also had 6 of them. They were the 6 shining pearls in Lu Ping's hand. What made Lu Ping even more excited was that these 6 pearls were not only compatible with his cultivation method, the North Sea Wave listening spell, but they were also third-grade spiritual material. 6 pieces of third-grade spiritual materials. To be exact, they were 6 top-grade spiritual materials that were condensed from the spirit water of heaven and earth after it had lost its spirituality. Lu Ping only had one thought in his mind: if he didn't refine these 6 pearls into his own life-bound magic tool, should he keep them as decorations and souvenirs? The North Sea Wave listening spell also recorded several ways to refine a life-bound magic tool and upgrade it to a magic tool that was compatible with the cultivation method. But at most, it was a pair of magic tools, such as the dual flying sword, but there was no way to refine 6 life-bound magic tools at the same time. After racking his brains, Lu Ping finally remembered this jade slip. He rummaged through his storage ring and found it. Lu Ping was a little troubled. This set of magic tools was naturally very difficult to refine, but Lu Ping didn't care. The better the life-bound magic tool, the more complicated it was to refine. What Lu Ping was concerned about was that he needed 6 identical spirit beads to forge this set of natal mystic instrument. Also, this set of life-bound magic tools required a large amount of magic power. Even with Lu Ping's abundant magic power from the North Sea Wave listening spell, he wouldn't be able to use it for long after he reached the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping flipped his hand and put away the jade slip and spirit bead. He stroked the handle and thought to himself, does it require a large amount of arcane energy to power it? Although this will consume my arcane energy faster, I'm a cultivator with abundant arcane energy. If I don't take advantage of this advantage, I'll have wasted my time cultivating the North Sea Wave listening scripture. Not to mention, as an alchemist, Lu Ping knew that there were medicinal pellets that could be used to increase a cultivator's arcane energy. Even though the recipes for these medicinal pellets were extremely precious and were kept a secret by the alchemists, Lu Ping knew that there were medicinal pellets that could increase a cultivator's arcane energy. Once it was successfully refined, The power of this set of magic tools could not be underestimated. If it could kill the enemy in a short time, it was acceptable to consume magic power faster. After making up his mind, Lu Ping only had one problem left. The remaining 6 spiritual pearls were in the hands of the Jin young master. Lu Ping believed that he was no match for the Jin young master, at least not for the time being. So how to obtain 6 spiritual pearls of the same quality was an urgent problem for Lu Ping. Or perhaps, Lu Ping would be lucky enough to obtain another 12 top-grade water-attributed spiritual materials. As for the Lifebound Genchen array, it was a problem that Lu Ping had to consider after he advanced to the core forging realm and upgraded the 12 Lifebound Genchen pearls to magical weapons. Lu Ping didn't even think about it. He was afraid that it would affect his confidence in obtaining 12 Lifebound Genchen pearls. 12 top-grade 3rd-grade spiritual pearls. 12 Lifebound Genchen magic tools. What a coincidence. Chapter 184. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ping hid in the cave the entire time and did not show his face. Instead, he refined the second magic treasure in his hand, the scarlet afterglow bead. There was only one treasure inside the scarlet afterglow bead, and the main effect of this treasure was not to attack or defend, but to imprison. Compared to the pestle, it was much easier to refine. Lu Ping only spent a third of his magic power and spiritual sense to refine the scarlet afterglow bead. The rest of the time was used by Lu Ping to summarize his trip to the 7-Star Palace, especially during the time when the 7-Star Palace was opened. Lu Ping had been fighting and scheming against each other. Not only had his magic power and spiritual sense been severely consumed, his body was also quite tired. Lu Ping decided to relax in the cave and sleep for an entire day. Of course, this time, Lu Ping did not forget to remind Dabao to be vigilant. At the same time, he released Samling and Dagui. On the other hand, Lu Qin was injured by Lu Ping's whirlwind sword in order to snatch the 3 spirit beads. She hid in the spirit beast bag and swallowed Lu Ping's healing pills to recuperate. 3 days later, Lu Ping, who was ready, suddenly felt himself being squeezed by an invisible force. Then, he spun around and his body fell down. His ears were filled with the sound of the wind. Lu Ping calmed himself down and found that he had already silently left the 7-Star Palace and was falling towards the sea. The white cloud beneath Lu Ping's feet flashed, and the magic cloud immediately caught Lu Ping's falling body. He looked around, not knowing where he was. A jade talisman in his sleeve suddenly vibrated. Lu Ping knew that this was the communication jade talisman that Qi Zizai had given him when he met her in the 7-Star Palace. The jade talisman vibrated, indicating that there were cultivators from his sect in the vicinity of the sea. Lu Ping followed the direction indicated by the jade talisman and soon discovered a few people gathered on the surface of the sea. When Lu Ping got closer, he realized that the 2 people in the lead were Senior Brother Cao and Senior Brother Sun from the 7-Star Sky sect. At this time, the aura of the 2 of them had changed. Their true essence flowed through their bodies. It was completely unfathomable. They were at the core forging stage. It was obvious that after leaving the 7-Star Sky, the 2 of them had undone the seal on their bodies. Lu Ping stepped forward to greet them. He didn't know how to address them, so he could only say, "I'm Chonghua Mansion's disciple, Lu Ziping." "Greetings, masters." When Senior Brother Cao saw Lu Ping, his naturally gloomy expression softened. However, the one who spoke was still Senior Brother Sun, who had a smile on his face. "So it's Junior Brother Lu." Junior Brother Lu's trip to the 7-Star Sky this time has not only contributed greatly to our sect, but in the final battle of the 7 Stars Temple, you joined forces with Ouyang Wei Jian to fight against Daoist Master Jin Li of the Golden Scale Mansion, who is famous for his swordsmanship. You even made the famous Ouyang Wei Jian suffer a loss at your hands. You've brought great honor to our sect. Lu Ping didn't expect that in just 3 days, this matter would spread throughout the 7-Star Sky. He hurriedly said, "You flatter me, Master." That day, under the watchful eyes of so many people, everyone was apprehensive. "That's why I was lucky enough to succeed. It's not worth mentioning." Daoist Master Sun waved his hand and said, in front of Daoist Master Shen Ling, Senior brother Cao and I have to respectfully address him as martial uncle. Junior brother Lu is Daoist master Xian Ling's personal disciple, so you can just call us senior brothers. Lu Ping naturally didn't know that during the 3 days he was hiding in the cave, the 7-star sky had already been plunged into a bloody storm. Ouyang Wei Jian and Daoist master Jin Li repeatedly attacked each other, killing more than a dozen blood condensation cultivators. Naturally, the mysterious red-faced cultivator who stood toe-to-toe with the two in front of the 7 Stars Temple was also talked about. When the mysterious red-faced cultivator was mentioned, there was another rumor that he once appeared in the Golden Fallen Canyon, even venturing deep into the inner layer of the canyon. Another rumor said that the mysterious cultivator, who was only at the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm, was defeated by young master Jin Li's sword strike, and escaped from He Lisin of the Shui Yang Pavilion. When he reappeared, he was already at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. Then, there was another rumor that the red-faced cultivator once cooperated with the 2 true spirit heroes. When the Megrez Hall opened, he snatched a jade box, but was later hunted down and disappeared. The next rumor was that when the red-faced cultivator opened the Fector Hall, he snatched a pill furnace, which was at least a high-grade pill furnace. However, there was another rumor that the red-faced cultivator was killed and looted, but no one knew whether it was true or not. Soon, some people discovered that when the Jade Hall opened, the red-faced cultivator also struck a large piece of space stone that Ouyang Wei Jian was about to get his hands on and sent it flying into Zhenling's hands. The cultivators in the 7-star sky began to suspect the relationship between the red-faced cultivator and Zhenling. Zhenling naturally wouldn't expose Lu Ping, and neither would Ari Buotao and the others. It wasn't until Ouyang Wei Jian personally admitted that the red-faced cultivator was actually Zhenling's cultivator and that Lu Ziping was wearing a red mask that the truth came to light. At this time, people remembered that a cultivator from the West Tomb Island once said that Peng Chongqing of the Ocean Flame sect, one of the 18 generals of the North Sea, was severely injured by the Ari family's 3rd young master, Ari Shudao, and Zhenling Lu Ziping before he was killed by Ouyang Wei Jian. It seemed that this rumor was true. The people in the 7-star sky concluded that this Zhenling Lu Ziping had at least 2.5 treasures obtained from the 7 Stars Hall. After coming out of the inner layer of the Golden Fallen Canyon, he definitely had a lot of rare spirit herbs on him. In the Amethyst Flower Sea, he probably had amethyst honey on him. The cultivators in the 7-star sky suddenly realized that this Lu Ziping was a human-shaped treasure trove. On the second last day of the 7-star sky's closing, someone discovered that among the Zhenling cultivators, the true spirit duo, Ji Zishuan and Yin Zichu, who had previously appeared everywhere, were among them. Only Lu Ziping was missing. Therefore, everyone in the 7-star sky, be it the Yarrow cultivators or the human cultivators, went crazy. On the last day of the 7-star sky's closing, the various forces in the 7-star sky only had 2 goals left. One was to continue clearing up the so-called overturned seas sect cultivators and seize the opportunity to plunder their cultivation resources. Many Yarrow cultivators were even mistaken for overturned seas sect cultivators and were hunted down. The second was to search for the red-faced Zhenling cultivator, Lu Ziping, which also included Zhenling. Of course, Zhenling was anxious to protect Lu Ping. After listening to senior brother Sun's account, Lu Ping was stunned again and again. He didn't expect so many things to happen in the last 3 days of the 7-star sky. Lu Ping looked around. The Zhenling cultivators who had arrived first looked at Lu Ping with a trace of envy and respect. When Daoist Sun and Daoist Cow heard that Lu Ping had been hiding in a cave to sleep for the last 3 days, Daoist Sun couldn't help but burst into laughter. Even Daoist Cow's face contorted. The Zhenling cultivators beside him also had their faces flushed red. At this time, Qi Zicai, Yin Zichu, and Ji Zishuan had also arrived. When they saw Lu Ping, they were naturally filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Ji Zishuan laughed evilly and said, "Fortunately, that big crocodile from Golden Flood Dragon Island didn't meet you. He doesn't know that you killed his 4th brother and is wanted by them. That Jin young master, Daoist Jin Li, also doesn't know that we killed his 4 great demon generals. Otherwise, Qi Zicai and the others didn't know that Lu Ping had been wanted by Golden Flood Dragon Island." After listening to Ji Zishuan's account, Everyone looked at Lu Ping with a strange expression of admiration. Daoist Cow, who was even colder and more taciturn than Yin Zichu, directly asked, "Do you need another mask?" From Daoist Cow's hands, Lu Ping took a pale white mask that looked like a tuberculosis ghost. After thanking Daoist Cow, he directly put it on his face. He thought to himself, if I told them about the amethyst royal jelly, the 3,000-year-old spiritual grass, the golden nut fruit tree, the myriad poison syrup, the unknown spirit water of heaven and earth, and the 2 transcendent artifacts, would these people in front of me go crazy? Not only did I kill the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master's 4th son, but even his 3rd daughter died under my sword. Among the cultivators from the overturned ocean gang, 2 Hall Masters had fallen by my hands. Since everyone had left 7-star skies, Chi Zitsai no longer made the decision. Daoist Cow was not good with words, so everyone listened to Daoist Sun's instructions. He said, "This time, the North Sea Alliance has sent blood condensation cultivators to exterminate the demon beasts in the demon territory. I believe everyone knows that the famous Golden Flood Dragon Island Master is celebrating his 600th birthday. I believe there will be many demon cultivators going to celebrate his birthday. We should also send a generous gift and join in the fun." When everyone heard Daoist Sun's interesting words, they all laughed and looked eager to give it a try. Causing trouble? Everyone naturally had a desire to destroy, not to mention not taking responsibility after the matter was over. Only now did Lu Ping understand why Daoist Yang Xian and Daoist Mu had repeatedly instructed Liu Ziyuan and the others to reach the demon territory outside Autumn Cloud Island before the 7th month. It turned out that they were going for the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master's 600th birthday. Chi Zitsai said worriedly, "Senior Marshal Brother Sun, according to what I know, the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master has a very high reputation among the demon cultivators. He himself is a powerful peak core forging expert, and he has gathered many core forging realm demon cultivators. There are even rumors that he once fought with a Laozu from the North Sea and escaped after being defeated. It is clear that he is very powerful. Although we have cultivators from the various sects in the North Sea, none of the sects have sent Daoist masters above the mid-core forging stage. With such strength, I'm afraid they won't be much of a threat to the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master." Chi Zitsai naturally knew that it was impossible for the various sects in the North Sea to send this little bit of strength, but she still asked. She wanted to know if there was a force that could keep the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master in check. After all, the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master was a peak core forging expert who could fight with Fa Xiong Laozu. If there wasn't a force that could keep him in check, then when he went berserk, it wasn't something that could be balanced by numbers. And this time, it was obvious that Laozu and the others wouldn't take action. Otherwise, it would arouse the vigilance of the Yarrow cultivator Laozu. At most, they would just give him a hand in the back. Daoist Sun understood the hidden meaning of Chi Zitsai's words. He smiled faintly and looked at the horizon. His slightly narrowed eyes were deep and somewhat fascinated. He said indifferently, "The Golden Flood Dragon Island Master might not be the only core forging expert who can fight with Fa Xiong Laozu." Everyone was naturally curious. They wanted to ask who it was, but Daoist Sun directly interrupted everyone's expectations. He said, "This time, we are going to attack Golden Flood Dragon Island together. The various powers in the North Sea have their own plans. Our sect also has its own plans. All disciples only need to listen to orders." Daoist Sun's words naturally implied that he wouldn't mention these people. Just as Daoist Sun was about to lead everyone to fly south, he saw Daoist Cow point at the deathly pale masked Lu Ping and say, "He can't go." Chapter 185. At this time, Lu Ping was concocting pills in the demon crab's nest that he had found the first time he came to the demon territory. That day, after the 7-star sky, Sage Cow bluntly said that Lu Ping couldn't go to Golden Flood Dragon Island. Sage Sun slapped his forehead and said, "I was careless." He turned to Lu Ping and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Lu, you really can't go. Right now, not only is Golden Flood Dragon Island searching for you, I'm afraid that cultivators from the 7-star sky will also have their eyes on you, not to mention the Overflowing Seas gang." Lu Ping knew that Sage Sun had another meaning, but he was too embarrassed to say it out loud. Right now, Lu Ping was too eye-catching. If he walked with everyone, not only would he be in danger, but even Zhenling and the others would be in danger. Even if Sage Cow and Sage Sun were present, it would still be the same. In fact, it might even delay the sect's plans. After all, the treasures Lu Ping had on him were too eye-catching. Of course, the two Sage Cow and Sage Cow were also concerned about Lu Ping's safety. Otherwise, Sage Cow wouldn't have given Lu Ping that mask, which was really unflattering, to Lu Ping. Ji Zixuan was a quick talker. After interacting with Lu Ping these days, they had gotten along quite well. He couldn't help but ask, didn't he change his mask? Senior Marshal Brother Lu also has a secret technique that can suppress his cultivation. This way, the Yarrow cultivators who haven't seen Senior Marshal Brother Lu with their own eyes and sensed his aura won't be able to tell that it's him. Qi Zixai explained, what kind of person is the Golden Flood Dragon Island Master? How could there be a lack of core forging Yarrow cultivators during his birthday? Who knows how many Yarrow cultivators want to curry favor with him? Junior Marshal Brother Lu's secret technique and Senior Marshal Brother Cao's mask may be able to fool ordinary blood condensation Yarrow cultivators, but in the eyes of core forging enlightened masters, it won't have the slightest effect. Ji Zixuan immediately knew that he had asked a stupid question and could not help but feel embarrassed. He smiled apologetically at Lu Ping, but he still had a regretful expression on his face. Lu Ping was grateful to Ji Zixuan in his heart. He knew that Ji Zixuan didn't mean to ask this question, so he said, the two spiritual masters are right. It just so happens that I have urgent matters to attend to on my way back to Huangli Island. In the future, if everyone is free, you can come to my immortal abode on Huangli Island as a guest. I will definitely welcome you with open arms. Here, I wish all of you senior brothers and senior sisters victory on your trip to Golden Flood Dragon Island, and help me, this wanted criminal, vent my anger. Everyone admired Lu Ping's actions in the seven-star sky, and after hearing his interesting words, they all smiled and bid him farewell. After bidding farewell to everyone, Lu Ping returned to the Demon Crab's cave. After letting Lu Dagui and Samling out to play, only Dabao, who was afraid of water, and the injured Lu Qin were left in the cave. Dabao was sleepy. Recently, his cultivation was about to break through to the third layer of the blood condensation realm. Every time he was about to break through, Dabao would sleep for a period of time. Lu Qin, on the other hand, stared motionlessly at Lu Ping as he refined pills. The pill that Lu Ping was currently refining was the bone-dissolving pill. Although Lu Qin was unwilling to take the form transformation pill, she was willing to speak. The bone-dissolving pill was not like the form transformation pill and the face-retaining pill, which were refined from a mixture of 500-year and 1,000-year spiritual herbs. The bone-dissolving pill was equivalent to a late blood condensation pill. Hence, Lu Ping wanted to take out his newly acquired top-grade alchemy cauldron for practice. This three-legged top-grade pill furnace was half the height of a person and as thick as a water tank. It was called the Nh1 cauldron, which meant that all rivers run into the sea. The entire pill furnace was covered in a layer of dark yellow. Only the bottom was dark red. Obviously, this pill furnace had been used many times, causing the bottom to burn with a layer of dark red. While Lu Ping was refining the cauldron, due to his carelessness, he almost suffered a loss. The cauldron wasn't a mystic treasure, but the seals inside were many times more complicated than the mid-grade cauldron Lu Ping had. Lu Ping had to expend more than half of his arcane energy and divine sense before he barely managed to refine the cauldron. Lu Ping finally understood why a top-grade cauldron was so much more valuable than an ordinary mystic artifact. Just the amount of arcane energy and divine sense required to refine a top-grade cauldron was much higher than the amount of arcane energy and divine sense Lu Ping had to spend to refine a two-layer herb pestle. Lu Ping did not dare to use the Nh1 cauldron to practice. Even driving this pill furnace would probably consume a third of Lu Ping's magic power. Before the pill furnace could heat up, Lu Ping would be like a lamp that ran out of oil. No wonder Zhenling only had 3 top-grade pill furnaces. Usually, only Fa Xiong Laozu and a few top pill refiners in the sect could use them. It was not that they did not allow others to use them, but they simply could not. Lu Ping had no choice but to obediently take out his mid-grade cauldron. Fortunately, he still had the indigo spirit fire. After resting for a day and recovering his arcane energy, Lu Ping began concocting the bone-dissolving pellets. Lu Ping, who had a great harvest in the 7-star skies, had collected quite a number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. However, there were not many 500-year-old spiritual herbs. This was mainly because other than his trip to the Golden Luo Valley, Lu Ping did not spend much time and effort collecting 500-year-old spiritual herbs. Fortunately, he had enough bone-dissolving pills. The cauldron was opened and 7 bone-dissolving pellets spun at the bottom of the cauldron amidst the medicinal fragrance. Lu Ping was overjoyed. It seemed like his alchemy skills had improved after advancing to the late blood condensation realm. In the past, his success rate for late blood condensation realm medicinal pellets was around 5 to 6%. But now, his success rate had risen to 7%. If Lu Qin wanted to refine the transverse bones in her throat, she would only need 3 to 5 of them. The remaining ones could be left for Sanling. Sanling's talent was high and her cultivation speed was fast. She would definitely advance to the late blood condensation realm before Dague. After all, the bone-dissolving pill was a special pill. Although the 500-year-old spiritual herbs required were not as precious as the 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, they were still relatively rare. Fortunately, the spiritual herbs produced in the 7-star skies were rare. That was how Lu Ping managed to gather enough bone-dissolving pills. Ever since the proud Qing Luan consumed the bone-dissolving pellet and refined the transverse bone in her throat, she had turned into a chatty little girl. She would never stop looking for an excuse to talk to Lu Ping, causing him to lose the ability to cultivate normally. One day, Lu Ping was studying the heart-dissolving pill formula he obtained from enlightened Master Liao Ding's remains in his cave abode. Suddenly, an 8 or 9-year-old child's voice came from outside the cave abode. Old master, that person is gone, that person is gone." Lu Ping looked helplessly at the little bird that flew into the cave abode and landed on Lu Ping's shoulder. "Qin, didn't I tell you not to call me old master? Why are you still calling me old master?" Lu Qin didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort when she transformed from a demonic bird that was several zhong long to a small bird that was only a foot tall. She said, "It was Da Bao who said that we are all spiritual pets that Master took in, so we must have the awareness of being Master's assistants. Especially a girl like Qin, we must not have any improper thoughts about Master." Lu Ping was speechless when he heard this. Da Bao, who was napping at Lu Ping's feet, suddenly woke up when Lu Qin mentioned his name. He then ran out of the cave abode at a speed that didn't match his size. By the time Lu Ping thought of Da Bao as the culprit, the spirit-seeking mouse had already dug another nest underground to hide. Lu Ping coughed and said, "Don't listen to Da Bao, that scoundrel, talk nonsense." After thinking for a while, Lu Ping felt that something was wrong and quickly added, "No matter what you call me, you can't have improper thoughts about Master." But after thinking for a while, he still felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't know what was wrong, so he said, "Call me whatever you want." "Right, little Qin, who did you say left just now?" Chapter 186. Lu Ping was infuriated by Da Bao's instigation of the Blue Phoenix Lu Qin. After a long time, he finally remembered what Lu Qin wanted to report to him. Lu Qin's small mouth spoke quickly, "It's about Daoist Master Jin Li. Little Qin grew up in this part of the sea and has many friends. Today, little Qin went to play with them. They told me that Golden Scale Mansion's Great King Jin Li is going to celebrate the birthday of an even greater Great King. That greater Great King is Great King Jin Li's adoptive father." Lu Ping was helpless against Lu Qin's series of great kings. Fortunately, he still understood her words. Counting the days, today was already the end of the 6th month. Golden Flood Dragon Island's master's birthday was on the 27th day of the 7th month. If Daoist Master Jin Li really was Golden Flood Dragon Island's master's adoptive son, then it was reasonable for him to leave early. After Lu Ping left with the Zhonling group of cultivators in the 7 Stars Palace, he kept thinking about Daoist Master Jin Li's cave mansion. When the 7 Stars Palace opened, Lu Ping had seen with his own eyes that young Master Jin Li had a close relationship with Golden Flood Dragon Island's crocodile. Therefore, Lu Ping had predicted that Daoist Master Jin Li would also attend Golden Flood Dragon Island's master's birthday banquet. However, Lu Ping hadn't expected that Daoist Master Jin Li and Golden Flood Dragon Island's master would have such a relationship. Instead, he gave Lu Ping a few more days to plot. Lu Ping's goal was naturally the remaining 6 spiritual beads in Daoist Master Jin Li's hands. However, Lu Ping couldn't guarantee that Daoist Master Jin Li wouldn't leave the spiritual beads in his cave mansion. After all, Lu Ping had investigated and found out that Daoist Master Jin Li's Golden Scale Mansion only had one core forging Daoist. The other demon generals were all at the late blood condensation realm. It was clear that this enlightened Master Jin Li hadn't been around for a long time and his foundation wasn't deep enough. If his subordinates ran into other enlightened masters and provoked them while enlightened Master Jin Li wasn't around, they certainly wouldn't be able to stop them. Thus, enlightened Master Jin Li was likely the same as Lu Ping, carrying his most important items with him. If that was the case, then Lu Ping's chances of obtaining the 6 spiritual pearls would be even lower. However, if perfected Master Jin Li's Immortal's Cave was well managed, and his subordinates were capable of blocking the attacks of other perfected masters when he wasn't around, then Lu Ping wouldn't have been so afraid to plot against Golden Scale Manor. No matter what, he had to take a gamble. Lu Ping made up his mind. When he turned his head to look over his shoulder, he saw that Lu Qin was carefully combing her feathers on his shoulder. It was rare that she wasn't talking to Lu Ping. Although Lu Qin was talkative, she had good judgment. She knew that she couldn't disturb Lu Ping when he was deep in thought. Lu Ping saw that she was diligently combing her feathers and felt like teasing her. He asked, "Little Qin, I heard that you were over 10 years old last time. How come you're talking like an 8 or 9-year-old child now?" Lu Qin said in a childish voice, "Our blue Luan has a lifespan of 500 years. Little Qin is only 60 years old this year. According to human calculations, isn't that only 8 or 9 years old?" As Lu Qin spoke, she stretched out her wings and counted her feathers back and forth, just like a person counting their fingers to calculate the zodiac. Lu Ping pretended to be surprised. "Hihi, so our little Qin is a genius." Lu Qin tilted her head, her pointy little mouth almost sticking up to the sky. She proudly said, "Little Qin is a genius. I only managed to break through to the late blood condensation realm when I was 200 years old. That's how I managed to occupy the nest with the spirit vein. Little Qin managed to do it at the age of 60. Of course, it's all thanks to the delicious pills that old master refined." While this little fellow was showing off, she didn't forget to flatter Lu Ping. Lu Ping asked, "Little Qin, didn't you just say that the blue phoenix has a lifespan of 500 years? Why did your mother pass away so early?" Lu Qin said in a daze, "Yeah, little Qin doesn't know either. Anyway, Mama's health got worse and worse. Later, she couldn't go out to hunt. Little Qin had to go out to hunt by herself and come back to feed Mama. But Mama still died in the end. She wasn't even 300 years old." The Golden Scale residence was built on top of a cliff in a mountain range at the bottom of the sea. The 12 demon generals under Daoist Jin Li were all at the 8th or 9th layer of the blood condensation realm. 4 of the demon generals that Lu Ping's group had killed were at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. It was obvious that their rankings weren't very high. According to the information Lu Ping's spirit pets had gathered from the yarrow cultivators, Lu Ping learned that the disappearance of the 4 demon generals didn't attract much attention from Daoist Jin Li. Most likely, Daoist Jin Li was busy attending his adoptive father's birthday celebration. At the same time, Daoist Jin Li probably didn't care too much about his 8th layer blood condensation realm subordinates. The cruelty of the yarrow world was obvious, but the cruelty of the human world was hidden. Lu Ping wasn't stupid enough to barge into the Golden Scale residence. According to the information Lu Qin and the others had gathered, Daoist Jin Li had brought 3, 4, 5, and 6 9th layer blood condensation realm Daoist Jin Li to Golden Flood Dragon Island. The other demon generals were led by the 1st and 2nd Daoist Jin Li to guard the Golden Scale residence. Of the 12 demon generals in the Golden Scale Residence, 6 were at the 9th layer of the Blood Condensation Realm. The remaining 6 were at the 8th layer of the Blood Condensation Realm. 4 8th layer Blood Condensation Realm Daoist Jin Lee had died, and 4 9th layer Blood Condensation Realm Daoist Jin Lee had left. After the 1st and 2nd Daoist Jin Lee returned from the 7-star skies, they had entered seclusion at Daoist Jin Lee's request to break through to the core forging realm. The remaining 2 demon generals weren't a threat to Lu Ping. This was one of the main reasons why Lu Ping dared to plot against the Golden Scale Residence. Another reason was that after Daoist Jin Lee had returned to the Immortal Cave, he had instructed his demon generals to lower the recruitment standards and increase the number of demon soldiers. The demon generals didn't know why their manor head, who had always strived for perfection, had suddenly changed his mind. However, demon cultivators valued strength more directly than humans. Increasing the number of demon soldiers meant that the Golden Scale Residence's strength would increase, and the number of subordinates under them would increase. Naturally, the 4 demon generals who had stayed behind to guard the Golden Scale Residence were more than happy to do so. Therefore, Lu Daguay was assigned the duty of managing the weapons. Samling, who had restrained his bloodline aura, had disguised himself as an ordinary sea snake demon. His talent was still quite good, and he became the 10th Daoist general's personal attendant. As for the late Blood Condensation Realm Lu Qin, she was called over by the 7th Daoist general to be his assistant. After Daoist Jin Lee left with the 4 demon generals, Lu Ping brought Dabao directly to the Golden Scale Residence. The demon soldiers responsible for patrolling the sea had already been transferred elsewhere by Lu Qin. Lu Ping casually tossed Dabao into the Immortal Cave, then executed the art of sea deception and headed towards the 10th Daoist general's encampment. After Lu Ping's swordsmanship had reached the Intent Realm, he began to ponder over the gift that his 6th senior apprentice sister, Dong Ziyu, had given him for their first meeting. It was a set of water attribute sword technique from the fallen Fei Ling sect, the formless sword technique. This sword technique wasn't some kind of invisible sword technique. Instead, it was based on the concept of water has no form. The sword technique was strange and agile, combining the real and the fake, changing constantly, making it difficult for the opponent to grasp it. If Lu Ping's, North Sea's 12 righteous techniques, focused on frontal combat, then this, formless sword skill, would be more like a strange technique. Lu Ping's, North Sea's 12 righteous techniques, was more like a righteous technique. Although the formless sword technique wasn't a sword technique specifically used to conceal one's tracks, it could still be used as a reference for Lu Ping to improve his own invisibility techniques. Just as Lu Ping arrived in front of the 10th Demon General's encampment, the 10th Demon General had already sensed that something was amiss. He came out with his new personal attendant, only to see a human cultivator swaggering towards him. Just as the 10th Demon General was about to signal his subordinates to capture this reckless human cultivator, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his throat, 7 inches above his head, and his back. The 3 sea serpent demon attendants behind him had actually attacked him. The 10th Demon General was also a serpent demon, otherwise he wouldn't have specifically chosen Samling to be his personal attendant, so he was very confident in his own cultivation and ability to resist poison. He sneered, "You 3 pieces of trash think you can plot against me?" As soon as the 10th Demon General finished speaking, his mocking smile froze on his face. 3 types of poison that shouldn't have appeared on 3 normal serpent demons had already seeped into his mana and body. The 10th Demon General opened his mouth to say something, but found that he couldn't make a sound. Opposite him, Lu Ping had beheaded him with a single sword strike. Samling had already found the snake gallbladder in the corpse and devoured it. Lu Ping kept the 10th Demon General's corpse for Samling to snack on in the future. At the same time, he could use the blood to concoct pills. When Lu Ping arrived at the 7th Demon General's encampment following Lu Qin's trail, he found Lu Qin and the 7th Demon General having a drinking contest. The 2 demons took out 2 slender long bottles filled with wine. Their long beaks reached into the bottles and sucked, and the wine in the bottles disappeared. The small demons standing at the side hurriedly filled the slender long bottles with wine again. Lu Qin, who had received Lu Ping's signal, took advantage of the time when the 7th Demon General's beak reached into the bottles to sneak attack and blind one of the 7th Demon General's eyes. The 7th Demon General was naturally shocked and angry. He immediately prepared to counterattack Lu Qin, but unexpectedly, a sword light sneaked behind him and stabbed into the 7th Demon General's heart. Lu Ping glared at Lu Qin. Lu Qin shrunk her neck and said weakly, "Big brother Dabao said that drinking can lower his guard." Lu Ping was in enemy territory and didn't have the time to worry about such trifling matters. Following Da Gui's directions, he headed towards the Golden Scale Residence's treasury. Along the way, there were patrolling demon soldiers. Because Lu Qin, the deputy general, was present, Lu Ping only needed to conceal his tracks. With Da Gui's help, Lu Ping easily obtained the key to the treasury. After entering the treasury, although Lu Ping had some understanding from Da Gui's previous report, he was still somewhat disappointed when he saw the items inside the treasury. Most of the items inside were mid to low-grade spiritual materials and ores. There were also a few crudely refined magic tools. Moreover, because the Golden Scale Residence had recently expanded its recruitment of demon soldiers, there weren't many of these magic tools left. There were also a few crudely gathered spiritual herbs. High-grade spiritual materials only made up a very small portion. There were also a few top-grade spiritual materials. With one glance, one could tell that these were the lowest-grade top-grade spiritual materials. It seemed that immortal Jin Li had indeed kept the good stuff on him. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Although the quality of these items wasn't good, the quantity was definitely not a small amount for a single cultivator. Lu Ping took out a few storage pouches and stored all the items in the treasury, regardless of whether they were good or bad. At this moment, Dabao appeared out of nowhere and began to boast about his achievements again. Chapter 187. Dabao had been very unhappy recently. He was the pet with intelligence who had followed Lu Ping for the longest time. As early as when Lu Ping's cultivation was still in the blood-refining realm and he had not established his own foundation, he had started his journey of following Lu Ping loyally. Unlike the pets with intelligence who joined later, Samling regarded Lu Ping as his father and obeyed him, Dagui regarded Lu Ping as his master and was loyal to his duty, Lu Qin regarded Lu Ping as her teacher and was in awe. Only he, Dabao, had a special relationship with Lu Ping. They had experienced the beginning stage of Lu Ping's business together. Dabao was not only Lu Ping's follower, but there was also a brotherly love between them. Therefore, Dabao was the oldest among all the pets with intelligence and had a close relationship with Lu Ping. Even if his cultivation was at the bottom of many pets with intelligence, he was still Lu Ping's first pet with intelligence, and other pets with intelligence would not challenge Dabao's position. But recently, Lu Ping's face would darken whenever he saw Dabao, and he would kick him. There were a few times when Dabao didn't manage to dodge and was kicked away by Lu Ping. Fortunately, Dabao's physique was thick, or else he would have broken his butt. This scared Dabao so much that he had been hiding from Lu Ping for the past few days. He dug a new cave under Lu Ping's temporary cave dwelling and hid there. Didn't he just warn the bird that had just learned to speak human language some things to pay attention to? These things were by no means alarmist talk. Why couldn't the master understand? Also, the bird didn't understand anything. It answered whatever the master asked and said all the things that should be said and shouldn't be said, but it put all the responsibility on the big rat. As soon as Lu Ping entered the Golden Scale Mansion, he grabbed the fat flesh behind Dabao's neck and threw him into the cave residence to look for treasures. When Dabao finally found something and ran to report to Lu Ping, he heard Lu Ping say, "Spirit Stone Mine, it seems that Dagui got the right information." Dabao was very helpless. It was obviously his credit for finding the Spirit Stone Mine. Why was the credit taken away by others all of a sudden? Lu Ping listened to Dabao's simple explanation and combined it with the information that Dagui and Lu Qin had obtained in the Golden Scale Mansion. Lu Ping quietly followed a few demon soldiers who were mining and arrived at the back mountain of the Golden Scale Mansion. There was actually a small spirit stone mine here. After the spirit stones were dug out by the demon soldiers, every 3 days, The accumulated spirit stones would be divided into 2 portions and sent to 2 rooms in the Golden Scale Immortals Cave that had been set up as cultivation rooms. When Lu Ping heard about the small spirit stone mine, his heart was filled with excitement. In the past, he was the one who discovered the small spirit stone mine on Xianqi Island, which directly led to the escalation of the conflict between Zhenling and Xianling sect. A core forging enlightened master had fought over it. Lu Ping's heart stirred. Could it be that the reason enlightened master Jin Li had left Golden Flood Dragon Island and established his manor here was all for the sake of this small spirit stone mine? Lu Ping followed the demon soldiers who were delivering the spirit stones and arrived in front of a manor inside the Golden Scale Mansion. This was the center of enlightened master Jin Li's Immortals Cave. Outside the manor, there was a protective array formation. If anyone tried to force their way in, not only would the yarrow cultivators inside be alerted, but enlightened master Jin Li, who was several tens of thousands of li away, would immediately receive the news. De Bao, who was at Lu Ping's feet, once again let out a series of shouts. Lu Ping's face lit up with joy and he asked, "There's a spirit vein here?" De Bao promptly nodded. The 2 demon soldiers escorting the spirit stones spat out a jade talisman from their mouths. The surface of the jade talisman flashed with a misty light, and the great array covering the manor suddenly revealed a passageway for the 2 demon soldiers to enter. After the 2 demon soldiers entered, they separated and placed 2 storage pouches containing the spirit stones into 2 stone rooms adjacent to the manor. Presumably, the first and second demon generals were currently in closed-door cultivation. When the 2 demon soldiers came out, Lu Ping pulled out the 2 jade talismans from their mouths. Fortunately, there was seawater all around, so the jade talismans were immediately washed clean. Lu Ping didn't care about the corpses of the remaining demon soldiers. If his spiritual pets were gluttonous, they could just swallow them whole. When Lu Ping passed through the manor's protective array, he felt a dense spiritual energy that wasn't in Lu Ping's Immortals Cave. Lu Ping was delighted. This manor was obviously much larger than Lu Ping's Immortals Cave, and there were even 2 peak blood condensation demonic beasts in closed-door cultivation. Even so, the spiritual energy here was still so dense. It was obvious that this was because there was a small spirit vein here. Lu Ping turned around and looked at De Bao, who was lying on the ground. However, De Bao had already plunged into the ground. This fellow was becoming more and more heartless. Lu Ping smiled faintly. It wasn't easy to scheme against 2 peak blood condensation demonic beasts. These 2 demonic beasts had followed Daoist Jin Li out of the 7-star skies. Lu Ping had seen the 2 demonic beasts following behind Daoist Jin Li at all times. One was a giant whale demonic beast with a nose on the top of its head, while the other was a white shark demonic beast with a human body and a fish tail. Lu Ping turned around and asked Lu Qin, who was perched on his shoulder, "Are you sure that Daoist Jin Li bestowed those 6 spiritual pearls to his 2 subordinates?" Lu Qin's little head nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. She replied, "That foolish 7th Yarrow general said it after little Qin got him drunk." At that time, Daoist Jin Li gave 3 of the 6 spiritual pearls to Daoist General Whale and Daoist General Shark. He wanted them to advance to the core forging realm as soon as possible and refine the pearls into transcendent artifacts. The other Daoist generals were all envious of them. Lu Ping thought to himself, "It looks like Daoist Jin Li can't wait to expand the strength of his subordinates. Could it be that the North Sea demonic beasts are planning something big, or is his Golden Scale Manor trying to expand its sphere of influence?" Lu Ping knew that the internal conflict between the Yarrow race was even more intense than that between humans. In fact, it was much more direct and bloody. The only difference was that it lacked the scheming of human cultivators. Golden Scale Manor was filled with an atmosphere of preparation for war, causing Lu Ping to feel a little suspicious. He didn't know who they were targeting. Before reaching the core forging realm, it was very difficult for a Yarrow cultivator to refine a high-quality transcendent artifact. Most of them would refine a part of their own body into a life-transcendent artifact. The 6 spiritual pearls that Daoist Jin Li bestowed upon them were obviously the best spiritual materials to refine a life-transcendent artifact. Furthermore, the 2 Daoist generals were only a step away from the core forging realm. Thus, once the two Daoist generals advanced to the core forging realm, the 6 spiritual pearls could be directly upgraded into transcendent artifacts. It was no wonder that the other Daoist generals were tempted. After all, they were in someone else's territory. There was no guarantee that Daoist Jin Li wouldn't leave behind some sort of backup plan. Lu Ping decided to end the battle quickly. Before the other Daoist soldiers of Golden Scale Manor could react, he would kill the 2 Daoist generals and seize the 6 spiritual pearls. With a plan in mind, Lu Ping took out the blue stone jar that contained the myriad poison paste from his storage ring. It was about half the height of a person, and he used his magic power to extract a ball of the myriad poison paste. As soon as the myriad poison paste left the blue stone jar's suppression of the heaven and earth spirit water, it immediately evaporated into a golden mist. Lu Ping's water manipulation art was naturally no problem in controlling the mist. The golden mist split into 2 and floated towards the 2 stone chambers on either side of the manor. After a moment, 2 loud roars could be heard from the 2 closed stone chambers. "Who dares to plot against me? You must be tired of living." With 2 loud rumbling sounds, the 2 stone chambers were simultaneously destroyed by the Daoist generals inside. A giant man with a nostril on the top of his head and a man with a human body and a fish tail walked out from the collapsed stone chambers. The 2 had yet to clearly see who was standing in front of the manor from the dust and mud that rose up from the collapsed stone chambers when a half-foot-long medicinal pestle rose into the air. It suddenly grew to a length of 30 feet and a width of 5 feet, smashing towards the whale Daoist general with a nostril on the top of his head. Chapter 188. Magic Tool. The whale monster general cried out in alarm. His right arm that was thicker than an ordinary thigh drew back. His giant fist was surrounded by a layer of water, and the outside of the water formed a thick white ice. His entire arm seemed to be covered in a layer of soft armor. With a loud clang, the medicine pestle flew back into Lu Ping's hand. The whale monster general's massive body drew back. With every step he took, the ground rumbled and trembled. When the whale monster general finally managed to steady himself, his dark purple face suddenly flushed red. He spat out a mouthful of blood that dyed the surrounding seawater red. Lu Ping was startled. He never thought that this majestic monster beast would be able to block a magic tool strike without dying. There was no turning back now. Lu Ping's spirit pets all rushed towards the severely wounded whale monster general. Lu Ping's complexion was dignified as he looked at the shark monster general rushing towards him. He swallowed down a spirit-restoring pill and pointed out a finger. Landslide howled towards the shark monster general. The magic tool in the shark monster general's hand was a long hilted saber. The triangular blade reminded Lu Ping of the fins on a shark's back. The shark monster general slashed out with the saber in his hand, forcefully blocking the strike of Landslide. Landslide flew backwards and the shark demon general was also knocked back by Landslide. How could Lu Ping's attack give the shark monster general a chance to catch his breath? The retreating shark monster general suddenly felt something strange in the surrounding seawater. A dark current flowed towards his feet. Looking up, he could see a crystal bowl hanging above Lu Ping's head. The surrounding seawater seemed to be controlled by Lu Ping through the crystal bowl. The shark monster general sneered inwardly. To think that he would show off his ability to control water in front of the monster general. The shark monster general flicked his tail and the water that was controlled by the crystal bowl suddenly stopped listening to him. But Lu Ping didn't care. The reason he used the crystal bowl was to delay the shark monster general. As the shark monster general and Lu Ping were competing in water control techniques, the surrounding seawater was stirred up by the undercurrents. An inconspicuous stream of water seemed to be driven by the undercurrents, losing control as it flew towards the shark monster general. The shark monster general glanced over and didn't discover anything wrong. But at this time, this inadvertent undercurrent suddenly erupted. It cut across the shark monster general's waist, leaving behind a long trail of blood. The shark monster general cried out in pain as he was injured. He slashed out with his glaive, but there was no trace of flowing water. Then, he felt a sharp pain on his back as the scales on his skin had been cut open. The shark monstrous general swiftly chopped at the stream of water that his divine sense had captured, but he discovered that the stream of water had suddenly dispersed, disappearing without a trace. The shark monster general knew that all of this was the work of the human cultivator in front of him. With a roar, he charged towards Lu Ping. He swung his glaive, not caring that the invisible stream of water had left 3 wounds on his body. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. This formless sword art was truly wondrous. With Lu Ping's sword arts at the sword intent realm, he was able to play with this shark monster in the palm of his hand. Normally, Lu Ping would only need to spend some time and he would naturally be able to easily kill this shark monster. But the battle right now had definitely alarmed the monster soldiers in Golden Scale Mansion. It was just that this was clearly not a place that ordinary monster soldiers could come to. If too much time passed, the monster soldiers would discover that something was wrong. Sooner or later, they would come in, and that would be troublesome. Lu Ping reached out and shook his hand. The undercurrent beside the shark monster suddenly exploded, and the Qinghan sword revealed its true form. With the move undercurrent surge, over 100 sword lights followed the surrounding undercurrents and sliced towards the shark monster. The shark monster, who had discovered the Qinghan sword, gave a loud roar, and its glaive drove the surrounding seawater towards the Qinghan sword. At the same time, it completely stirred up the surrounding seawater, causing the sword lights hidden in the undercurrents to lose their direction. If only he had reached the level of sword light psychic, then the shark monster wouldn't have been able to break this sword art so easily. Lu Ping sighed inwardly, thinking back to Daoist Jin Li's 600 or so sword lights in the 7 star skies that had formed that vivid giant fish. With a turn of the Qinghan sword, Lu Ping used a move from the 1000 snow sword art, Heaven's Line. A white sword light came from far away, and over 100 sword lights formed a straight line, chopping towards the shark monster's glaive. Although the shark monster's glaive was actually powerful, the Qinghan sword's 100 or so sword lights seemed to form a straight line, all of them chopping down on the same spot of the glaive. Even though the shark monster was strong, it still couldn't help but take 2 steps back. The glaive's hilt had nearly been cut in half. Just as the shark monster was forced back, a bewitching red bead was already floating in the air above the shark monster. Countless red threads hung down, firmly binding the shark monster. The shark monster fiercely struggled free, its entire body surging with monster energy, but to its surprise, the red threads only became tighter and tighter. The shark monster let out a furious roar, glaring at Lu Ping with its 2 blood-red eyes. Before the shark monster could even scream, it felt its body lighten, and then lost all consciousness. The shark monster roared angrily, its 2 blood-red eyes glaring at Lu Ping. The magic power within Lu Ping's body was already on the verge of drying up after activating the transcendent artifact twice in a row. His pale complexion looked as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. Lu Ping hurriedly swallowed a vitality-replenishing pill into his stomach, lest his magic power deplete and damage his foundation. Lu Ping rapidly revolved the North Sea Wave listening art to restore his magic power. Luckily, this was where the Goldscale Mansion's spirit vein was located, and the spiritual energy here was abundant. After Lu Ping cultivated the North Sea Wave listening art, the speed at which he restored his magic power was slower than that of an ordinary person. But that was referring to the degree of recovery, not the amount of recovery. On the contrary, every time the North Sea Wave listening art revolved it, the amount of spiritual energy it restored was above that of the vast majority of law techniques. It was only because the North Sea Wave listening art cultivated magic power was far too vigorous, and in addition to the fact that Lu Ping paid particular attention to consolidating his foundation from the start, pursuing the purity and richness of his magic power, that caused Lu Ping's recovery speed to seem much slower than other cultivators of the same level. As Lu Ping used the graceful azure sword to attract the shark monster's attention, and then used the scarlet afterglow bead to imprison the shark monster, and finally used the jade blood needle to pierce through the shark monster's eyes into its brain, on the other side, the battle between Lu Qin and the other spirit pets and the whale monster general was nearing its end. The whale monster general had been heavily wounded by Lu Ping's magic weapon pestle. Although he was the #1 monster general of Goldscale Mansion, he was still severely wounded by the combined efforts of Lu Qin and the other spirit pets. But the whale monster general was still at the peak of the blood condensation realm. Even though he was severely wounded, he wasn't someone that Lu Qin and the other spirit pets could easily defeat. Big Gooey's tortoiseshell already had several cracks on it. He lay there, not daring to move, fearing that if he moved, the tortoiseshell on his back would completely shatter. Lu Bai's scales had been peeled off, and they were all bloody. Lu Hai's tail had been flattened by the whale monster general's fist, and he was in so much pain that he spun around. Lu Ling had simply fainted. The beautiful Blue Luan's body was a complete mess. Feathers were scattered all over the ground, and many of them were floating towards the surface of the sea. The seabed wasn't a battlefield that Lu Qin excelled in, but her cultivation was the highest. She was the main force that blocked the whale monster general. Only De Bao was completely unscathed. Lu Ping knew that after De Bao finished investigating the spirit veins, he had also joined the battle. However, De Bao had only found an opening to place a trap under the whale monster general's feet, and then he would hide far away and release several earth spikes. Unfortunately, the power of his earth spikes was too weak, and the whale monster general would often crush them with a single stomp. Instead, De Bao's traps had given the whale monster general a great deal of trouble, and they provided a great deal of help to the other spirit pets in battle. After the battle ended, the clever De Bao took advantage of the time when Lu Ping was tidying up the corpses of the two giant monster beasts that had returned to their original forms. Like a wisp of smoke, he ran off to the ruins of the two stone chambers to collect the spoils of war. Unfortunately, neither of the two monster beasts had a condensed blood bead. The strength of these two monster beasts was tyrannical, and their strength was no less than that of the overturned Sea Gang's sea-calming Hall Master that Lu Ping had killed in the Seven-Star Skies. And, this Hall Master was someone who had fought on equal footing with Ari Buatao. In other words, Lu Ping had killed two monster beasts that were on par with the 18 generals of the North Sea. After peeling off his skin and pulling out his tendons, De Bao ran over with two jade boxes on his head. Lu Ping's eyes brightened. He reached out and picked up the two boxes, impatiently opening them. Within each box were 3 radiant spirit beads. If these weren't 6 of the 12 spirit beads that had spouted out when Miza Hall had opened, then what were they? Lu Ping suppressed the excitement in his heart. He placed the 6 spirit beads into the box that Lu Ping had used to store the spirit beads. The 12 spirit beads suddenly began to revolve on their own, as if they were attracting each other, forming the shape of a giant water droplet. Lu Ping was very curious. These 12 spirit beads had already lost their spiritual nature, so how could they still revolve on their own? Lu Ping looked at the water droplet formed by the spirit beads and suddenly understood. These 12 spirit beads were formed from the same type of spiritual water of heaven and earth that had lost its spiritual nature. In other words, these 12 spirit beads were one, and not like what Lu Ping had previously imagined. Miza Laozu's disciple had searched everywhere for spiritual water of heaven and earth that had lost its spiritual nature to form these beads. After gathering all 12 of them, he had offered them to Laozu. Lu Ping was rather shocked in his heart, but at the same time, he was ecstatic from the bottom of his heart. If these 12 spirit beads were formed from the same type of spiritual water, then there would be 2 advantages. First, the spiritual water of heaven and earth that had been used to form the spirit beads would have been massive, otherwise, it would have been impossible to form so many of them. Second, the grade of the spiritual water of heaven and earth was definitely not low. Otherwise, the residual spiritual nature of the condensed spirit beads would not have been able to cause the spirit beads to fuse together. Lu Ping suddenly understood why Daoist Jinli had not kept these 6 spirit beads for himself. Besides the fact that Daoist Jinli already had his own natal magic weapon, Daoist Jinli had probably already noticed that although these 6 spirit beads were one, they were not complete. Although the might of the natal magic weapon would be great, it would not be able to reach its peak. Lu Ping had already achieved his goal of risking his life to infiltrate Golden Scale Manor. Lu Ping looked at the manor in front of him. Although Lu Ping had stepped into the manor's grand protective array, it was obvious that only Daoist Jinli could enter the manor. Once Lu Ping stepped inside, he would most likely trigger the restriction that Daoist Jinli had left behind, alerting Daoist Jinli, who was thousands of miles away. Lu Ping felt rather conflicted in his heart. Dabao had just infiltrated the earth vein and had not found the spiritual gathering bead. Moreover, because of the grand protective array, Dabao could not infiltrate the manor and could only search underground. If he retreated now, not to mention whether or not there would be any treasures left behind by Daoist Jinli in the manor, just the small spirit vein was enough to make Lu Ping salivate. If he could move it to his abode on Huangli Island. Chapter 189. In the end, Lu Ping suppressed the greed in his heart and quietly left Golden Scale Residence before the demon soldiers of Golden Scale Residence charged into the manor. Although Golden Scale Residence was several tens of thousands of li away from Golden Flood Dragon Island, once Daoist Master Jin Li discovered that his residence had been invaded, it would only take him a few hours to rush back. Moreover, it was impossible for Lu Ping to reach Huangli Island within these few hours. In this period of time, Daoist Master Jin Li would be able to kill him 8 to 10 times over. Unless Lu Ping's cultivation reached the core forging realm and his divine sense transformed, he would be able to use Lu Ping's innately tyrannical divine sense to sever Daoist Master Jin Li's connection to his own aura. 3 days later, Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island without alerting anyone. Although Liu Ziyuan and the others had already left Huangli Island, Zhenling only dispatched a few idle blood condensation cultivators from Tianling Mountain. Huangli Island was still heavily guarded, and Lu Ping only entered the island with the identity of a rogue cultivator. The next day, Lu Ping called Fang Dao to his residence. When Fang Dao learned that Lu Ping had returned, he was overjoyed and immediately reported the shop's recent situation to Lu Ping. Lu Ping impatiently waved his hand and said, "You can tell Senior Marshal Sister Hu about these matters after she returns. I don't have the patience to deal with these matters. Just hand over all the 500-year-old spiritual herbs that you've purchased during this period of time to me." Fang Dao knew that his employer was a noble alchemist. He was already over 50 years old and had low aptitude. He thought that he had no hope of reaching the blood condensation realm in this lifetime, so he used this position as the shopkeeper of Lu Ping's shop to provide spirit stones to his juniors. Lu Ping and Hu Lili admired Fang Dao's honesty. Since Huangli Island had become more prosperous, there was a need for a blood condensation cultivator to keep up appearances. Lu Ping and the others were in the golden years of their cultivation and were pursuing greater progress. Naturally, they wouldn't spend too much time on trivial matters like the shop. Therefore, Lu Ping focused on nurturing Fang Dao. When Fang Dao reached the 9th layer of blood condensation, Lu Ping rewarded him with one of his remaining blood condensation pills to help him reach the blood condensation realm. Because of this, Fang Dao was even more grateful to Lu Ping. This was also why Fang Dao, along with Hu Lili and Chen Lian, stopped Li Yu and the others from entering Lu Ping's cave abode 5 years after Lu Ping went missing in the Sea of Monsters. After that, Lu Ping's status on Huangli Island rose higher and higher. It was said that he even became the disciple of a famous enlightened master in Zhenling. While Fang Dao was secretly glad that he had a good eye for talent, he also knew that Lu Ping's future was limitless. Thus, he worked even harder. Lu Ping took the storage bag containing the spiritual herbs from Fang Dao and looked inside. He smiled and said, "Not bad. There are some rare spiritual herbs inside. We're going to use them this time. Even though there aren't many of them, there's a lot of different types. Has the number of cultivators going out to sea increased recently?" Fang Dao smiled and said, "That's right. Ever since our sect joined forces with the other sects in the North Sea to hunt down the demonic beasts, many cultivators believed that the demonic beasts' counterattack would be suppressed. Thus, they all went into the sea. Naturally, the harvest is much better." Lu Ping pondered for a moment. He thought about the recruitment of demon soldiers in Golden Scale Manor and felt that this was not a simple matter. He remembered that the ultimate goal of Liu Ziyuan and the others going out to sea to hunt was to cause a scene at the Golden Flood Dragon Island Lord's birthday banquet. Thus, he asked, "Has there been any news from the sea recently?" Fang Dao didn't know what Lu Ping's goal was, but he still said, "The biggest news recently is the opening of 7-star skies. Our sect's harvest from 7-star halls is a notch higher than Xianling sect's. Also, when the 7-star skies is about to close, the other sects and demon cultivators joined forces to attack the Overflowing Oceans sect. I heard that the Overflowing Oceans sect suffered heavy losses. Fang Dao was also nurtured by Zhenling since he was young. Although he came from a small cultivator clan, his sense of belonging to Zhenling was no less than Lu Ping's. When he heard that Zhenling had defeated his old rival, Shen Ling sect, he was naturally very happy. "Oh, right. There's also some news about you, boss. It's said that you made a name for yourself in the 7-star skies and received the title of 3 heroes of true spirit. Boss, you're really young and promising." Lu Ping was stunned. Wasn't the title given to Ji Zixuan and Yin Zichu as twin heroes of true spirit? How did it become 3 heroes? And he even added himself on top of it. Lu Ping didn't care about these empty titles. He asked, "Is there any other news about me?" Fang Dao thought for a moment, then said, "The news about 7-star skies has only recently arrived, so it's not very accurate. I think it's said that boss obtained some kind of treasure, and that after obtaining 7-star skies, you didn't meet up with the other cultivators of our sect, and that you've already fallen. The rest is very vague, and I don't know if it's related to boss." Lu Ping knew that most of the things he had done in the 7-star sky were kept a secret. However, just the few things he had revealed to the public were enough to arouse the greed of some people. In addition, there might be people with ulterior motives pushing him in the dark. Who knew if there would be trouble in the future? However, on second thought, Lu Ping remembered that he had always been in a lot of trouble. If he hadn't gotten into these troubles, Lu Ping wouldn't have been able to reap so many rewards. Understanding this, Lu Ping didn't bother with these matters any longer. Instead, he turned to ask, "How are your 2 brats' cultivation going?" When Fang Dao heard Lu Ping ask about his 2 children, he immediately smiled. The 2 of them can be considered diligent in their cultivation. Although their talent isn't very good, thanks to boss's grace, they've been able to buy quite a few medicinal pills refined by boss at a low price. The eldest has already reached the 7th layer of blood refining, and the youngest is just a bit weaker, but she's also reached the 6th layer. In half a year, they should be able to become 3rd-level disciples of the monastery. Lu Ping nodded. "Tell the 2 of them to cultivate properly. The late blood refining realm is a bottleneck. Every step forward will be more difficult, so they can't be careless. If they manage to reach the 9th layer of blood refining before leaving the monastery, then come find me for a few blood condensing pills." He choked and said, "How can this be? How can this be? How can I let the boss spend so much money? Alas, these 2 kids are so lucky. I thank the boss on behalf of these 2 kids. In the future, they must remember the boss's kindness." Fang Dao was excited all of a sudden. His face was trembling, and his eyes were wet. He sobbed and said, "How can this be? How can this be?" Lu Ping saw his emotional expression and somewhat incoherent speech. He knew that although the Fang family was a cultivator family, the family head with the highest cultivation base was only a mid-blood condensation inner disciple. After Fang Dao reached the blood condensation realm, he became one of the 3 blood condensation cultivators in the Fang family. Naturally, Fang Dao's status would rise. But such small families were as common as the hairs on an ox in Zhenling. These families' circumstances were actually better than rogue cultivators in that they had the protection and inheritance of the giant tree that was Zhenling. But in terms of daily cultivation, they were even worse off than rogue cultivators. At the very least, rogue cultivators only cared about themselves, while clans had many more to consider. To the Fang clan, a blood-condensing pellet was as valuable as a family heirloom. Back then, when Fang Dao succeeded in breaking through to the blood condensation realm, the Fang clan and the other clans that were on good terms with the Fang clan were envious of him. When the Fang clan's clan master learned of Lu Ping's situation, he repeatedly urged him to help Lu Ping. Just as Lu Ping was about to say something to Fang Dao, his expression changed. With a wave of his hand, the ice river killing array outside opened a gap, and a golden ray of light flew in. Lu Ping reached out and caught it. It was a magic sword that could transmit sound from a long distance. It was surging with arcane energy. Clearly, it was the handiwork of a core forging enlightened master. Lu Ping probed it with his divine sense. Immediately, Enlightened Master Chu Xuancheng's forthright voice sounded, "Kid, you're in trouble. Return to Chonghua Manor immediately." Chapter 190. Huangli Island was too far away from Tianling Mountain, so Master Liu Shenling asked Chu Shencheng to inform him to return to Chonghua Prefecture. Lu Ping guessed that Master probably called him back because of the news about Seven-Star Skies. Master wanted to know what happened in Seven-Star Skies, and the sect probably had something to do with it. After all, the cultivators who came out of Seven-Star Skies went to Golden Jiao Island. Only Lu Ping knew the details. After Lu Ping finished reading the message, he said to Fang Dao, "From now on, I won't be concocting blood-refining realm medicinal pellets. I will concoct some blood condensation realm medicinal pellets, but due to the lack of spirit herbs and other reasons, I won't be able to concoct too many. Also, I'll mainly concoct essence replenishing pellets, spirit recovering pellets, and other healing medicinal pellets. Don't be afraid of having too many spirit herbs. If you run out of spirit stones, just come to me for more. You can take care of the store's business on your own." Lu Ping raised his hand to stop Fang Dao from thanking him. "Here are 2 bottles of China root pills. They're good for early blood condensation realm cultivators. You're already at the peak of first-level blood condensation realm. With these 2 bottles of China root pills, see if you can break through to second-level blood condensation realm." Fang Dao quickly waved his hand. "Boss, I'm already very grateful that you're willing to take care of my 2 children. How can I accept more blood condensation realm pills? I know my limits. I'll only be able to reach the blood condensation realm at most. I'll be satisfied if I can live for another 200 years. Lu Ping ignored his refusal and placed the medicinal pellets on the table. He continued, "After you break through, practice all the spells and cultivation methods you've learned. Don't neglect them. Also, tell the clan to make more preparations. It's always better to be prepared." Fang Dao was old and experienced. How could he not hear the worry in Lu Ping's words? However, since Lu Ping didn't say it out loud, Fang Dao didn't ask. He could only agree. After sending off the utterly grateful Fang Dao, Lu Ping felt very helpless. As his cultivation base rose, some things would become involuntarily involved, even if he did not want to. This could be considered as a plan for the future, even if it did not appear to be a meaningful move. Lu Ping activated the traction formation and pulled the mini spirit vein from Lu Qin's nest over. This time, due to the distance, the movement caused by the traction was even bigger. Fortunately, earthquakes often occurred at sea, so it didn't attract too much attention. Feeling that the spiritual qi in the cave abode was a little more vigorous, Lu Ping also had a sense of accomplishment. This foundation was earned from nothing. Now there were 6 mini spiritual veins in the cave abode, and it was getting closer and closer to 10 mini spiritual veins to be upgraded to a mini spiritual vein. However, when Lu Ping thought of the small spirit vein in Daoist Master Jin Li's Immortal's cave, he felt a burst of unhappiness in his heart. After he advanced to the core forging stage, no matter what, he had to make a plan for that spirit vein. The only way to return to Tianling Mountain was through the teleportation formation on Shenqi Island. Lu Ping was currently considering the feasibility of using the teleportation formation on Huangli Island, but it seemed to be impossible at the moment. Lu Ping originally planned to visit Daoist Master Chu Shencheng and find out more about the old man. Unexpectedly, Daoist Master Chu seemed to have already expected his return and ordered his disciples to stop him, telling him to return to Chonghua Palace. Lu Ping rushed all the way to Tianling Mountain's Chonghua Lake. In order to show his respect to his master, Lu Ping personally rowed a small boat to Chonghua Palace on the island in the middle of the lake. Coincidentally, he met an old man coming out of the Chonghua Palace. Lu Ping recognized this old man. He was one of the 2 core forging registered disciples who sat outside the Chonghua Palace when Daoist Master Liu Shenling opened the forum for him. Although the other party was a registered disciple, Lu Ping still didn't dare to neglect him. He stepped forward and saluted, "Senior Brother Luan, how have you been recently?" When Senior Brother Luan saw Lu Ping, he smiled, "So it's Junior Brother Lu. Young Miss was looking for you. Junior Brother, you came just in time. For a moment, Lu Ping was confused. He didn't know who the young miss was. Could it be ninth junior sister Jiang Zixuan? Looking at Lu Ping's face full of suspicion, senior brother Luan didn't explain anything. Instead, he shook his head and walked away. Lu Ping had no choice but to walk towards the Chonghua Palace. When he entered the Chonghua Palace, Lu Ping saw Daoist Master Liu Shenling sitting at the head of the hall. He must have already known of his arrival. Lu Ping stepped forward and saluted. Daoist Master Liu Shenling smiled. I didn't expect to have a treasure boy under my wing. Lu Ping knew that what happened in the seven-star sky had probably been found out by his teacher. He quickly said, reporting to Master, although this disciple had some gains in the seven-star sky, the title of treasure boy is absolutely unworthy. Daoist Master Liu Shenling smiled, at least you have some rationality. However, for this title to reach my ears, it's obvious that someone is causing trouble. The sect is already preparing to spread the news that the treasures you obtained in the seven-star sky have been given to the sect. It can be considered as washing away your treasure boy reputation. Lu Ping thought about it and understood the meaning behind Daoist Master Liu's words. However, he still asked reluctantly, the sect will say what treasures this disciple has given. Daoist Master Liu smiled but didn't answer. Lu Ping knew that he had asked a stupid question, so he took out a third of the 36 golden nuts from the jade box in his storage ring and placed them in the box for his teacher. He said, these are the 12 golden nuts that disciple obtained when the seven-star sky hall opened. I am willing to give them to the sect. Daoist Master Liu was stunned and said, it's actually this item? As he spoke, he took a look and said with a smile, originally, the sect wanted me to be the villain. Although you are my direct disciple, this treasure was ultimately obtained by you. However, the sect blocked the covetous light of outsiders for you. Moreover, there are many things that the sect has to worry about internally, so it's inconvenient for me to do so. However, being able to obtain these golden nuts is still beyond my expectations. Lu Ping naturally understood the meaning behind it. The sect personally came forward to eliminate the treasure name on Lu Ping and also to clearly convey a message to the North Sea cultivators. That was, Lu Ping was valued by the sect. Anyone or force that had designs on Lu Ping would be punished by Zhenling's entire sect. With Zhenling's status in the North Sea, it was indeed possible. Daoist Master Liu saw that Lu Ping understood his meaning and didn't explain further. Instead, he said, originally, I only wanted you to take out some things to shut some people's mouths. However, since it's this kind of thing, I might have to let Laozu come forward and ask for some good things. Daoist Master Liu took out a golden sound transmission magic sword. Lu Ping saw that it was exactly the same magic sword that Daoist Master Chu Shencheng gave him. Daoist Master Liu opened his mouth and said something to the magic sword. Then, he placed the jade box on the magic sword. A golden light flashed and the magic sword left the hall of Zhonghua Beauty. Daoist Master Liu saw the doubt on Lu Ping's face and said, you are already an alchemist, so you must have heard of the golden indomitable pill. Do you know the effects of the golden nuts? Lu Ping nodded and said, disciple knows that this golden indomitable pill is an excellent bodyforging pill. However, disciple doesn't have the pill recipe for the golden indomitable pill. Daoist Master Liu looked at Lu Ping with a smile that wasn't a smile. Lu Ping knew that his teacher had already seen through his intention to ask for the golden indomitable pill's recipe, so he changed the topic and asked, disciple has one thing that I don't understand. Although the golden nuts are rare, the golden indomitable pill is only a half-step core forging pill. How did it provoke our sect's Laozu to come forward? When Daoist Master Liu heard this, he thought for a moment and said, you shouldn't know about this matter. Every transcendence stage Laozu will face a calamity when his cultivation base is high enough. If he can't overcome it, his soul will fly away and scatter. In order to overcome this calamity, a tyrannical body is a great help. The majority of methods to strengthen the body are not as good as the natural cleansing of the cultivator's body by spiritual qi during cultivation. Therefore, every method that can strengthen the body outside of cultivation is extremely precious. This golden indomitable pill is one of the better methods. Lu Ping heard this and seemed to understand something. Daoist Master Liu advised him again, the sooner the body is strengthened, the better. I think you should have a few golden nuts on hand. If you obtain the recipe, quickly refine them into the golden indomitable pill. You can refine the retaining youth pill, so you should also be confident in refining the golden indomitable pill. Lu Ping nodded in agreement. However, he saw the empty space in front of Daoist Master Liu suddenly shake and shatter like glass, forming a ripple like the surface of the water. This was the second time Lu Ping had seen this kind of situation. 2 jade slips suddenly penetrated through the ripples on the water surface. Daoist Master Liu caught the jade slips in his hand, stood up slightly, and bowed towards the ripples in the space. The ripples in the space shook again and returned to their original state. Daoist Master Liu looked at the jade slips in his hand and handed them to Lu Ping. He smiled and said, "It seems that this time, Laozu was willing to take advantage of me." Lu Ping reached out and took the 2 jade slips. The 2 jade slips were not covered with any seals. Lu Ping penetrated his divine sense into the jade slips. He was naturally looking forward to the reward from Transcendent Stage Laozu. One of the jade slips contained the recipe for the golden indomitable pill that Lu Ping wanted. This was Lu Ping's third half-step core forging pill recipe after obtaining the retaining youth pill recipe and the heart-dissolving pill recipe. The second jade scroll recorded a complicated seal. Even with Lu Ping's divine sense, which was far stronger than a 9th-layer blood condensation realm cultivator, he still felt dizzy just by looking at it. Moreover, he only had a superficial understanding of the seal. However, Lu Ping felt a sense of familiarity with it, as if he had encountered something similar before. Lu Ping looked at Daoist Master Liu with uncertainty and asked, "Teacher, is this a treasure restriction?" Daoist Master Liu nodded approvingly and said, "It is indeed a treasure restriction. Your divine sense has yet to evolve into divine sense, yet you were able to browse through this restriction. It is clear that your divine sense cultivation is not bad. This restriction is a water attribute treasure restriction. Throughout history, when enlightened masters who cultivate the art of listening to the waves from the sea refined their natal magic treasures, this restriction is the first choice. I can see that the magic energy in your body is pure and vigorous, far surpassing what the art of listening to the waves from the sea can achieve. Naturally, you had your own fortuitous encounter, but you have yet to forge a natal magic treasure. You would rather not have one than have one, so I asked for this treasure restriction for you. In the future, when you reach the core forging realm, this treasure restriction will be of great use." Chapter 191. Lu Ping had received great benefits. He knew that if it wasn't for his teacher appearing, an ordinary cultivator would only receive special protection from the sect if they offered the golden nuts. They wouldn't receive a treasure restriction or a pill recipe as a reward. Lu Ping was grateful. After thinking for a moment, he took out 6 more golden nuts and said, "This disciple still has a few remaining golden nuts. Since these fruits are very useful for cultivators to strengthen their bodies, this disciple will not offer them to the sect and forget teacher's principles." Daoist Liu looked at the golden nuts in Lu Ping's hand and his eyes lit up. He chuckled and said, "You're really smart. These golden nuts are indeed very useful to me. Say it, what do you want? Although I can't compare to our sect's Laozu, I will not let my disciple suffer a loss." Lu Ping quickly waved his hand and said, "It's natural for a disciple to be filial to his teacher. There is no reason for me to ask for benefits from teacher." Daoist Liu smiled and said, "How can there be a teacher who covets the treasures in the hands of a disciple? Fine, since you won't say it, I will give you another treasure restriction. This treasure restriction is also of the water attribute. It can complement the treasure restriction from before and can be used to improve your life magic treasure in the future. It's also not bad to use it to refine other magic treasures." Lu Ping looked at the 2 more treasure restrictions in his hand and asked in confusion, "Magic treasures can also be improved with different treasure restrictions?" Lu Ping knew that this was the time for his teacher to explain to him. Once he didn't understand something, he would immediately ask. Sure enough, Daoist Liu patiently explained, magic treasures are different from magic tools. The more restrictions there are in a magic tool, the more powerful it will be. It's the opposite for magic treasures. It's best to use one type of treasure restriction only once. The power of magic treasures with two same restrictions is far less than the power of magic treasures with two different restrictions. Daoist Master Liu paused, organized his words, and then said, "The power of a magic treasure depends on two aspects. One is naturally the embryo of a magic treasure, which is the quality of a top-grade magic treasure. The higher the quality, the more restrictions can be superimposed. The second is the type of restriction that can be superimposed. When a magic treasure reaches the top, it can superimpose 9 different restrictions, but the vast majority of magic treasures can't reach this level." Lu Ping thought back to the herb-pounding pestle, mystic treasure he obtained, which was a combination of 2 identical seals. It seemed like the herb-pounding pestle wasn't a good mystic treasure, but its power was already astounding. He wondered how powerful it would be if it was combined with 9 different seals. On this trip to the 7-star sky, besides obtaining a large number of treasures, Lu Ping's cultivation had also improved significantly. Lu Ping asked Daoist Liu about the problems he had encountered during his cultivation. Daoist Liu answered them in detail and told Lu Ping everything he needed to pay attention to in cultivation. Lu Ping felt that he had benefited a lot. When Lu Ping said goodbye to Zhonghua Palace, more than half a day had passed. After returning to Huangli Island, Lu Ping cultivated while preparing to refine the Golden Grade Pill and the Heart-Dissolving Pill. At the same time, he told Fang Dao to pay attention to the news of the Demon Realm, especially the news of the North Sea Alliance attacking the Demon Realm. The difficulty of refining the Adamantine Pill and the Dissolving Heart Pill was undoubtedly higher than that of a half-step core forging pill like the Youth Halting Pill. The Youth Halting Pill only required 5 types of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, while the other 500-year-old spirit herbs required more than 20. Moreover, these spirit herbs were common in the cultivation world. The Golden Grade Pill required a total of 36 kinds of spirit herbs. Among them, 12 were 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. The remaining 500-year spirit herbs were also rare. If not for Lu Ping's trip to the Golden Fallen Valley, it would have been difficult to gather them. Even so, Lu Ping only managed to gather 6 batches of spirit herbs. The heart-dissolving pill was even more difficult. Lu Ping looked at the spirit herbs listed in the pill recipe and almost gave up. Refining the heart-dissolving pill required a total of 49 kinds of spirit herbs. Among them, 24 were 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. This was comparable to refining a core forging realm pill. Generally speaking, one of the requirements to reach the core forging realm was to have 27 kinds of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs in the pill recipe. The difficulty of refining the heart-dissolving pill was no less than refining a core forging realm pill. Lu Ping used up more than half of the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs he collected in the Golden Fallen Valley. Finally, he barely managed to gather enough spirit herbs to refine the heart-dissolving pill for 3 batches. Lu Ping finally understood why the Liao clan would venture deep into the Golden Fallen Valley to collect spirit herbs every time the 7-star sky opened. Naturally, he had to start with the easiest medicinal pellets. Each cauldron of golden resilience pellets would take about 2 days to concoct, and each cauldron would require 2 golden nuts as the main ingredient. Lu Ping's first cauldron of golden resilience pellets didn't go smoothly due to his unfamiliarity with the process. 2 days later, Lu Ping took out a single golden pellet from the cauldron that smelled like charcoal. Lu Ping took a deep breath and encouraged himself, "Not bad, I thought we'd all fail again. Who would have thought we'd be able to succeed?" Lu Ping carefully recalled the refining process. Besides being unskilled and limited by Lu Ping's own alchemy level, the biggest shortcoming was the process of condensing and purifying the pill. During this process, an alchemist needed to purify the spirit liquid and remove as much impurities as possible from the spirit herbs. This would improve the quality of the pill and increase the success rate of the pill. Compared to the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, the impurities in the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs were naturally less, but it also meant that the impurities were more difficult to remove. Lu Ping thought for a moment and suddenly remembered that when he helped Chen Lian upgrade Landslide to a top-level magic tool, he used the spirit fire smelting purification technique. A bold idea suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's mind. He didn't know if this purification technique was feasible in alchemy. Thinking of it, Lu Ping immediately began to refine the second batch of pills. This was also because Lu Ping had enough golden nuts in his hands. If he let Fa Xiong Laozu find out that Lu Ping actually used the golden energy pill, whose value was no less than a core forging stage pill, to experiment on alchemy, and also used a refining method, who knew if Laozu would slap Lu Ping to death? The first time was always accompanied by failure. During the process of condensing and purifying the golden energy pill, Lu Ping directly absorbed the power of the blue spiritual fire to purify the impurities in the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs. However, he was unable to control the temperature, and directly vaporized the spirit liquid of the spirit herbs. Even so, the second batch of pills still brought Lu Ping a golden energy pill. Lu Ping was overjoyed. It seemed that this method would work. However, it required more precise control of the blue spiritual fire, and the requirements for divine sense were undoubtedly higher. After discovering a new method, Lu Ping was in high spirits. He tirelessly threw himself into refining the third batch of golden energy pills. He knew that as long as he completely grasped the application of this purification technique in alchemy, his alchemy skills would undoubtedly reach a higher level. During the third purification, only a quarter of the spirit liquid evaporated, and Lu Ping obtained 2 golden energy pills. During the fourth batch, Lu Ping finally completely grasped the purification technique. The spirit liquid did not evaporate, and 3 golden energy pills were produced. With Lu Ping's continuous refining, in addition to the application of the purification technique, his understanding of the golden energy pill also deepened. During the fifth batch, Lu Ping finally reached a success rate of 40%. When the sixth batch of pills was successfully refined, Lu Ping looked at the 4 golden energy pills inside and knew that this was the limit of his current alchemy skills. 15 golden energy pills. Because the box of golden nuts was obtained by Lu Ping with the help of Yin Zichu and Ji Zishuan, Lu Ping planned to give 5 to each of them after they returned from Golden Flood Dragon Island. Chapter 192. There was still no news from Golden Jiao Island. However, Fang Dao heard that the various sects had sent cultivators to hunt demonic beasts in the demon territory. Lu Ping carefully analyzed the news and found that there was a lot of news about Zhenling. However, there was no news about Liu Ziyuan, Qi Zicai, Ari Buotao, Miao Weidong, or the 18 generals of the North Sea. Clearly, the previous news was a smokescreen used by the sects to confuse the demon race. Lu Ping focused all his energy on cultivation and pill concoction, especially pill concoction. Because Lu Ping had successfully modified a purification technique for smithing and applied it to pill concoction, it greatly improved Lu Ping's pill concoction skills. Lu Ping was currently debating whether he should concoct the heart-dissolving pill. The heart-dissolving pill was even more difficult to concoct than the golden grade pill. It was almost the same as a core forging realm pill, but the heart-dissolving pill was far more valuable. The heart-dissolving pill could ignore bottlenecks and allow a blood condensation realm cultivator's cultivation to increase by 1 level after 3 days of seclusion. The 24,000-year-old spiritual herbs used to concoct the heart-dissolving pill were all extremely rare and precious. Each of them was a main ingredient in any core forging realm pill. If Lu Ping failed to concoct the pill, he would lose more than 150,000 spiritual stones. In the end, Lu Ping decided to concoct the heart-dissolving pill. After Lu Ping returned from the demon territory, especially after discovering that the Golden Scale residence was recruiting demon soldiers, Lu Ping felt that a war was about to break out between the human and demon races. Perhaps the North Sea sect scheme against the Golden Jiao Island Lord was the fuse. Therefore, Lu Ping urgently needed to increase his strength. Moreover, Lu Ping was already in the late blood condensation realm. If a war broke out, Lu Ping might not have the time to concoct the heart-dissolving pill. The process of concocting the heart-dissolving pellets was a painful one. The first cauldron of medicinal pellets turned into ashes with a loud bang during the concoction process. Just like that, 150,000 spirit stones were wasted. Lu Ping also had to add in a high-grade spirit stone to ensure that the cauldron had sufficient spiritual energy. After concocting the heart-dissolving pellet for the first time, Lu Ping rested for 2 whole days before he started concocting the heart-dissolving pellet for the second time. Lu Ping now knew that the biggest obstacle for him in concocting pellets close to the core forging realm was his divine sense. Divine sense was more detailed and precise than divine sense. At the same time, it was also stronger than divine sense. Even though Lu Ping's divine sense was far stronger than a peak blood condensation cultivator's, he still exhausted his divine sense at the last moment of pill condensation. It was easy to imagine what would happen if a normal blood condensation realm pill refiner tried. Now that he was prepared, Lu Ping didn't make any mistakes during the second cauldron of heart-dissolving pellets. After the cauldron was opened, a bright red pellet jumped out from the cauldron. Lu Ping ignored the exhaustion of his divine sense and reached out to grab the only heart-dissolving pellet in his hand. The bright red heart-dissolving pill seemed to be beating like a heart. Lu Ping knew that this was because the heart-dissolving pill was extremely close to the core forging realm. It had already surpassed the half-step spirit transformation level of other half-step core forging realm pills. It was close to the spiritualization level of a core forging realm pill. Even though Lu Ping summarized his previous 2 attempts, he still only succeeded in refining 1 heart-dissolving pill. It seemed like this was the extent of his pill refinement skills. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. Shocking news finally came from the demon territory. Among the North Sea's demon race, the peak core forging realm lord of Golden Jiao Island, who was known as the #1 person under Fa Xiong Laozu, had been attacked by the North Sea cultivators on the day of his 600th birthday. The various demon cultivators who had come to celebrate his birthday suffered heavy losses. The news had just reached Huangli Island, so the exact situation was unknown. Fang Dao hurriedly reported to Lu Ping. Lu Ping had already expected this, so he wasn't surprised. He only told Fang Dao to continue gathering information from the cultivators who had returned from the sea. The North Sea's various sects had come prepared, so it wasn't surprising that they won. Lu Ping was concerned about the number of casualties on both sides, as well as the degree of participation of high-level cultivators. This was the essence of this conflict. Apart from that, he also wanted to know about Hu Lily and his group of friends. He hoped that they would be able to protect themselves in this large-scale conflict. For some reason, Lu Ping felt a sense of urgency. What he needed to do now was to increase his own strength and prepare for the possibility that the conflict might escalate further. In a cultivation room in the belly of the mountain, Lu Ping held a bright red pill in his hand. It was one of the 2 heart-dissolving pills Lu Ping had obtained by sacrificing 4 to 500,000 spirit stones worth of spirit herbs. The effects of the heart-dissolving pill would only appear once for each cultivator. Cultivators couldn't use the heart-dissolving pill to increase their cultivation continuously. Therefore, the best time to consume the heart-dissolving pill was at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. That way, they would be able to reach the peak of the blood condensation realm in one fell swoop and start preparing for the core forging realm. The heart-dissolving pill was said to be able to increase a cultivator's cultivation without damaging their foundation. However, as a precaution, Lu Ping still prepared some of the best pills he could currently use in case of emergencies. At the same time, he held 2 precious high-grade spirit stones in his hand to aid his cultivation. After the heart-dissolving pill entered his stomach, the first layer of the pill dissolved rapidly, turning into a stream of medicinal energy that flowed into Lu Ping's blood vessels, widening them. An intense pain swept through Lu Ping's entire body. Immediately after, the second layer of medicinal energy spread throughout his body, repairing and nourishing his blood vessels. The third layer of medicinal energy turned into a huge wave of spiritual energy that rampaged through his blood vessels. Lu Ping tried his best to circulate the North Sea wave listening technique. With the help of his powerful divine sense, Lu Ping's abundant arcane energy finally began to guide this external spiritual energy. At the same time, it gradually refined this spiritual energy into his own arcane energy. Lu Ping's arcane energy quickly rose to the peak of the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. As Lu Ping's arcane energy became more abundant, the dormant foundation bloodline in his body finally became active again. The feeling of hunger came again. This time, the Flood Dragon bloodline sharpened its blade and targeted the Earth Ape bloodline. However, Just as Lu Ping's foundation bloodline subdued the ape bloodline's resistance, the enormous spiritual energy contained in the heart-dissolving pill suddenly began to run out. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. He knew that this would happen. The cultivation of the North Sea wave listening technique naturally increased the density of arcane energy. It also lowered the bottlenecks of cultivation. However, this dense arcane energy caused Lu Ping to spend a lot of time accumulating and polishing the arcane energy in his body every time he advanced. Although the heart-dissolving pill could increase a cultivator's cultivation by 1 layer, it was still insufficient against Lu Ping's unique cultivation technique. Right now, Lu Ping's cultivation was only a step away from the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. Without hesitation, Lu Ping swallowed 2 late blood condensation blood spirit pellets and a surge of spiritual energy flowed into his veins. Although the medicinal efficacy was incomparable to the heart-dissolving pellet, this was the last straw he needed. The 2 high-grade spirit stones in his hands came in handy. Along with the spiritual energy emitted by the 6 miniature spirit veins, the spiritual energy continuously flowed into Lu Ping's body. With the help of this spiritual energy, the Flood Dragon bloodline finally devoured all the spiritual energy in the ape bloodline. In his heart core, the 8th condensed blood bead gradually formed. Lu Ping had finally stepped into the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. It took Lu Ping 5 days to consolidate his cultivation base in the 8th layer. He looked at the 2 high-grade spirit stones that had been crushed into powder in his hand and the thin spiritual energy in the mountain belly. He smiled and thought to himself that he was lucky this time. Lu Ping knew that he had only broken through to the late-stage blood condensation realm less than 3 months ago. If others knew that he had broken through to the 8th layer now, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. Thus, he used the spirit concealment technique to conceal his cultivation to the 7th layer. This way, even core forging enlightened masters wouldn't be able to discover Lu Ping's true cultivation unless they deliberately probed him. When Lu Ping came out of seclusion, he saw a voice transmission talisman floating outside the Ice River Killing formation. Lu Ping called it over and saw that it was Fang Dao reporting the latest situation in the demon territory. Because Lu Ping was focused on his seclusion, he had no choice but to use a voice transmission talisman to leave a message. The most shocking part of the surprise attack on Golden Jiao Island was when the sects of the North Sea launched their attack. That day, when the cultivators lying in ambush around Golden Flood Dragon Island launched an attack and killed their way to Golden Flood Dragon Island, they were temporarily blocked by Golden Flood Dragon Island's Grand Array. Just as the formation grandmasters of various sects began to break the island-guarding formation of the Golden Flood Dragon Island, an earth-shattering laughter suddenly came from the Golden Flood Dragon Island. "This old man is celebrating my 600th birthday. I wanted to invite my fellow Taoists of the demon race to join in the festivities. I didn't expect that my fellow Taoists of the human race would also come uninvited." Just as the Golden Jiao Island Lord finished speaking, a shocking aura soared into the sky. The clouds in the sky suddenly changed color. At this moment, the Golden Jiao Island Lord seemed to have become the ruler of the sky. "Oh no, the wind is dancing and the clouds are changing. This is the sign of the Dharma phase Laozu. This old demon has already achieved Dharma phase and advanced into the Dharma phase. This old demon is probably not having a birthday banquet, but a Dharma phase assembly. I'm afraid so." I also suspected that even if the Golden Jiao Island Lord was invincible in the core forging stage, it would be impossible for him to invite 108 core forging stage demons from 72 prefectures for a birthday banquet. If it's a Dharma phase assembly, then it makes sense. Since this old demon has achieved Dharma phase, we are definitely not his match. I'm afraid we'll have to return in defeat. Just as the North Sea cultivator's morale was falling due to the Golden Jiao Island Lord's soaring aura, a gentle voice came from afar. "I wanted to leave after watching the show, but I didn't expect my old friend to have achieved Dharma phase. Xianlin is very comforted. Perhaps I'll have to ask for a cup of wine." As this gentle voice came, the sky that was originally dark and bright suddenly cleared up. The Golden Jiao Island Lord's aura was forcibly pushed back. "But Golden Jiao Island. Jiang Xianlin, it's you? I didn't expect you to have also achieved Dharma phase." Then I should call you Jiang Tianlin. This is what you're relying on to besiege my Golden Jiao Island. The Golden Jiao Island Lord was obviously shocked. Perfected Jiang Xuanlin's arrival caused the North Sea cultivators' morale to soar. The shadow of the Golden Jiao Island Lord's advancement to the Dharma phase was swept away. The perfected masters and disciples of the various sects looked at the Zhenling disciples beside them with envy. The Zhenling perfected masters and disciples were stunned at first, then they were overjoyed and proud. They didn't expect that their sect's perfected master Jiang Shenlin had already achieved Dharma phase. Becoming a Dharma phase Laozu meant that he would be the guardian of the sect. Zhenling's strength would greatly increase because of this. Presumably, Shenling's sect would have to think twice before claiming to be the number one sect in the North Sea. Chapter 193. The Dharma Stage. In the eyes of most cultivators, it was an unreachable existence. It was the decisive power of a sect or force. Not to mention the fact that perfected Jiang Shenlin had reached the Dharma stage, his sudden appearance had shocked both the humans and the demons. While the North Sea cultivators' morale was boosted by perfected Jiang Xuanlin's appearance, only the Shenling cultivators had mixed feelings. It had long been said that the number of Zhenling's Dharma power Laozu had already surpassed that of Shenling sect. Shenling sect was only able to maintain its position as the number one sect in North Sea because it had the only late Dharma power Laozu in North Sea. Now that the Zhenling had another Laozu, Shenling sect's position in North Sea was in jeopardy. The situation on Golden Jiao Island changed once again. The island lord and Zhenling's Tianlin Laozu flew into the sky and fought all the way. In a short while, no one knew where they went. The departure of the two Dharma adepts, who had been dominating the scene, immediately lit the fuse of the war between the humans and the demons. With a loud boom, the protective array of Golden Jiao Island was broken by the combined efforts of the spell formation masters of the various sects of the North Sea. The North Sea cultivators rushed in, and the demon cultivators of Golden Jiao Island rushed out. Soldiers fought soldiers, generals fought generals. The battle lasted for 2 days and 2 nights. The North Sea sects were well prepared and gained the upper hand. The demon cultivators were forced to retreat on Golden Jiao Island. In the end, they had to defend the Golden Jiao Temple. After several unsuccessful attacks, the cultivators were worried that the North Sea demon cultivators would come to support them. Thus, they retreated from Golden Jiao Island and prepared to leave the demon territory. When Lu Ping received the news, the cultivators were already retreating from the demon territory. However, along the way, the cultivators frequently fought with the demon cultivators who came to support them. Thus, the speed of their retreat was not fast. It was said that more than 30 enlightened masters had fallen in this battle. The North Sea sects had also lost close to 20 enlightened masters and countless blood condensation realm cultivators. All in all, the North Sea sects had the absolute upper hand. Although Lu Ping felt it was a pity that he couldn't witness the battle between hundreds of core forging realm cultivators, he was even more excited when he heard that the appearance of the two Avatar great ancestors had changed the outcome of the battle between tens of thousands of cultivators. He couldn't wait to be there and join the battle. However, Lu Ping forced himself to calm down. In this kind of battle between tens of thousands of cultivators, individual factors were negligible. Unless he reached the Dharma power stage like perfected Master Jiang Shenlin, he would need to be at least in the late stage of core forging to protect himself in such a situation. After calming down, Lu Ping prepared to fuse the myriad poison meteorite essence in the myriad poison serum with his protective energy, the Heavenly Splendor water curtain. This was a remarkable technique recorded in the North Sea Wave listening technique that Lu Ping had compiled from the Sea Wave listening technique and the Seesawing spirit art into the North Sea Wave listening technique. The so-called remarkable technique was divided into 2 situations. One was when a cultivator cultivated magic arts, sword arts, tool arts, formations, alchemy, tools, and talismans. After the so-called cultivation arts reached the intent realm, the cultivator's own comprehension would break through the shackles of the intent realm and obtain a kind of great freedom, great magical power. This was a remarkable technique. This kind of remarkable technique varied from person to person, and its power depended on the individual's luck and perception. The other situation was when a cultivator used the heaven and earth oddities to fuse with their own magical power, purposefully strengthening their own cultivation of a kind of magic art. This could also be called a remarkable technique. The power of this kind of remarkable technique depended on the cultivator's mastery of external forces and requirements. What Lu Ping needed to do now was to cultivate the second kind of remarkable technique. According to the records in the North Sea wave listening technique, the heavenly splendor water curtain's protective energy could be fused with some water attribute heaven and earth oddities. When the heavenly splendor water curtain fused with 3 water attribute heaven and earth oddities, it could become a kind of remarkable technique called the heavenly splendor true shield. The myriad poison liquid that was condensed from the myriad poison meteorite evil chi was one of the best quality among the water attribute heaven and earth oddities. It was perfect for fusing with the heavenly splendor water curtain. Lu Ping opened the heavenly splendor water curtain and first absorbed the golden myriad poison meteorite evil chi from the myriad poison liquid into the heavenly splendor true shield according to the cultivation method of the heavenly splendor true shield. However, this process was extremely smooth, far less complicated and cautious than the cultivation process of the heavenly splendor true shield. Lu Ping thought about how he used the heavenly splendor water curtain to fuse with the demon spiritual energy of the 3 green sea snakes in the Golden Valley to delay the erosion of the golden mist. Thinking about it, this process was undoubtedly compatible with a certain cultivation method of the heavenly splendor true shield and shortened the cultivation process. Overjoyed, Lu Ping simply skipped this process and directly used the art of water manipulation to absorb a trace of the myriad poison liquid. According to the method of the heavenly splendor true shield, he slowly refined and fused it. When this trace of the myriad poison liquid was fused with the heavenly splendor water curtain, Lu Ping could feel the gang qi protecting his body becoming a little stronger. Therefore, he continued to fuse the myriad poison liquid drop by drop into the heavenly splendor true shield. When Lu Ping had fused 1296 drops of the myriad poison liquid and used up almost half of the large bluestone vat of myriad poison liquid that Lu Ping had brought back, the azure heavenly splendor true shield was completely dyed with a layer of gold. Clouds and smoke circulated within the gang qi, emitting a strange fragrance. This was the unique smell of the myriad poison liquid. Perhaps it was due to the fact that things would move in the opposite direction when they reached an extreme. This kind of extremely potent poison unexpectedly carried such a strange fragrance. Lu Ping was quite helpless. Lu Ping displayed the pale golden heavenly splendor water curtain protective gang qi. At this time, the heavenly splendor water curtain was almost as strong as a top-grade magic tool refined from ordinary third-grade spirit materials. It was not much worse than the cloudy sky. If the heavenly splendor water curtain was combined with the cloudy sky, the defensive strength of the two would undoubtedly be greatly enhanced. In addition, when the heavenly splendor water curtain was fused with the myriad poison liquid, it could also corrode the enemy's magic power and magic tool when attacked, reducing the pressure of the attack. Of course, as one of the few poisons in the world, the myriad poison liquid also allowed Lu Ping to no longer fear the vast majority of poisons in the cultivation world. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was immune to all poisons. 10 days later, Lu Ping's great success had already been achieved. At this time, the Battle of Golden Jiao Island was nearing its end. The cultivators of the various sects gradually withdrew from the Demon Territory's sea area and returned to their respective sects. In the process of the North Sea's sects withdrawing from the Demon Territory's sea area, the demon race cultivators who heard the news and rushed over to support Golden Jiao Island caught up with them. The cultivators of the North Sea's sects fought and retreated at the same time. After they met up with the cultivators who came to support them, both sides launched a great battle at the border of the sea area. This battle was not the slightest bit inferior to the Battle of Golden Jiao Island. The difference was that this time, the demon race was not at a disadvantage. Both sides suffered casualties, and in the end, both sides had no choice but to retreat. When Lu Ping came out of seclusion, the several hunting teams that set off from Huangli Island had already begun to return. Lu Ping's heart was on fire. He was anxious to know how Hu Lily and his friends were doing. Chapter 194. Before Lu Ping had time to find Hu Lily and the others, a telepathic sword once again summoned Lu Ping to Qianling Mountain. This time, it was second senior sister Li Xuanru who was looking for Lu Ping. This was the first time Lu Ping had been to second senior sister's cave abode. Rather than calling it a cave abode, it was more like a small farm garden. Perfected Li Xuanru had built a few thatched cottages here and then surrounded it with a fence. Around the fence, there were many fields planted with spirit herbs and ordinary fruits and vegetables. When Lu Ping entered the courtyard of the small farm, he found that he was not the only one here. Third senior sister, fourth senior sister, and seventh senior sister were all here. Only eighth senior sister, Leng Qian, 10th senior sister, Jiang Zixuan, and sixth senior sister, Dong Ziyu, who was in seclusion, were not here. Seeing Lu Ping's arrival, perfected Li Xuanru smiled and said, "Ninth junior brother is here. Sixth junior sister is still in seclusion. Eighth junior sister went out to participate in the Golden Flood Dragon Island battle. I don't know if she has returned yet. I heard that youngest junior sister secretly followed Grandmaster to Golden Flood Dragon Island. With Grandmaster's protection, there should be no problems." They sat around a wooden table in the middle of the garden. There were some fruits on the table. Although they weren't spirit fruits, they were fresh and juicy. Lu Ping guessed that second senior martial sister must have grown them herself and just picked them to serve the guests. Lu Ping took a fruit and took a bite. It tasted good. When everyone saw Lu Ping's actions, they all smiled knowingly. They knew that Lu Ping did not treat them as outsiders. Second senior sister was very happy. She continued, "This time, I believe everyone knows about the battle between the humans and demons on Golden Flood Dragon Island. Grandmaster, perfected Jiang Shenlin, successfully advanced to the Dharma stage and became another Laozu of our sect. He also defeated Golden Flood Dragon Island's lord, who had also advanced to the Dharma stage, in front of the North Sea cultivators. It can be said that his name shocked the North Sea." Lu Ping didn't know that perfected Jiang Shenlin had defeated Golden WM Island Lord. He only knew that perfected Jiang and Golden WM Island Lord had been fighting all the way and that perfected Jiang had disappeared. That was why the North Sea cultivators who had surrounded Golden WM Island were able to attack it. Second senior sister, why didn't we know that Grandmaster had advanced to the Dharma stage? Isn't it said that when a cultivator advances to the Dharma manifestation stage, there will be a huge astronomical phenomenon? Seventh senior sister Hua Zifang couldn't help but ask. Reverend Li Xuanru smiled mysteriously and said, "Why didn't it trigger a celestial phenomenon? Have you forgotten about the huge spiritual vortex at the peak of Qianling Mountain several months ago?" Seventh senior sister covered her mouth in surprise and said, "Isn't it said that Fa Xiong Laozu is going to practice magic? Could that be the celestial phenomenon triggered by Grandmaster's breakthrough to the Dharma manifestation stage?" Reverend Li Xuanru nodded slightly. Lu Ping saw that third senior sister and fourth senior sister's expressions were calm. They probably already knew about it. Sure enough, Reverend Li Xuanru continued, at that time, the sect had already started to make arrangements for Golden WM Island. Therefore, other than the cultivators in the sect who were at the core forging stage and above, the other disciples didn't know about it. The huge celestial phenomenon was also covered up by the sect using Fa Xiong Laozu as an excuse to practice magic. Lu Ping recalled the expression on Reverend Liu's face when she noticed the celestial phenomenon. Presumably, she knew at that time that it was Reverend Jiang Shenlin who had broken through. However, after receiving the jade scroll from the void, teacher had ordered that Laozu was performing magic. Presumably, she had received some kind of order at that time. Reverend Li Xuanru continued, "In the North Sea, a cultivator's advancement to the Dharma manifestation stage only happens once every several decades or even hundreds of years. Moreover, advancing to the Dharma manifestation stage means stepping into the highest level of the cultivation world. Therefore, every time a cultivator advances to the Dharma manifestation stage, a grand ceremony must be held to celebrate and promote Laozu's divine might. Naturally, the sect will not give up this opportunity to raise the sect's status and promote Grandmaster's mighty name. Lu Ping had already guessed the reason why second senior sister had called everyone here. As expected, Reverend Li Xuanru continued, our sect is now already preparing for Grandmaster's Dharma Manifestation Assembly. The disciples under Grandmaster of Carefree Manor are already busy. Invitations have been sent to all the big and small forces and famous itinerant cultivators in the North Sea. I believe that this time, Grandmaster will use the Golden Flood Dragon Island Lord to establish his might. I'm afraid the scale of the Dharma Manifestation Assembly will be unprecedentedly grand. Although my Chonghua Manor and Carefree Manor are two manors, we are actually one. Reverend Li Xuanru saw that 7th Senior Sister Hua Zifang wanted to say something but stopped. She smiled and said, 7th Junior Sister, I know what you want to ask, but you're 3rd Senior Sister, 4th Senior Sister, and I don't know much about Master and Grandmaster. I can only tell you that before you, 8th Junior Sister, and 9th Junior Brother become Master's disciples, there will be no Chonghua Manor. We will all be disciples of Carefree Manor. After listening to 2nd Senior Martial Sister's explanation, Lu Ping knew he had a little more understanding of the inner workings of the sect. But just as they were about to talk about it, 2nd Senior Martial Sister suddenly stopped. Lu Ping knew that the 3 core Forging Realm Senior Martial Sisters must know something about their teacher and enlightened Master Jiang Xianlin. They just couldn't say it out loud. Lu Ping knew that the first part of the conversation was mainly for him and 7th Senior Sister to hear. The two of them clearly hadn't been in Chonghua Manor for a long time, so they didn't know much about the relationship between Chonghua Manor and Carefree Manor. Then, Reverend Li Xuanru explained the purpose of today's gathering. She said, after the Dharma Assembly, all the participating sects, powers, and itinerant cultivators will have to send congratulatory gifts. Even the enlightened masters of the various branches of the sect will have to do the same. It's just that Master obviously won't be attending the Dharma Assembly, but we, as disciples, can't be disrespectful. In the past, although the enlightened masters of the two branches don't interact with each other, the disciples of both branches are close. In our sect, they have always been regarded as one. The enlightened masters of the two branches have never stopped this situation. Today, I called all of you here to discuss what kind of congratulatory gifts we should send. Lu Ping knew that this kind of thing was usually discussed by the 3 core Forging Senior Sisters, and 2nd Senior Sister would make the final decision. Calling him and 7th Senior Sister over was just out of courtesy. After all, his blood condensation realm cultivation wasn't high enough to participate in these things, let alone the Transcendence Dharma Assembly. The 3 Senior Sisters discussed for a long time, and in the middle, 7th Senior Sister also joined in. She asked more questions out of curiosity. The disciples of Chonghua Manor were all friendly, and the 3 Senior Sisters didn't ignore Hua Zifang and Lu Ping just because they were core forging enlightened masters. From time to time, they would ask for their opinions. After discussing for a long time, the 3 of them finally decided on 2 congratulatory gifts. One was 5 3,000-year-old ordinary spirit herbs, and the other was a 2nd-grade top-grade spirit material, the Void Soundstone, which was born alongside the Earth-grade origin treasure, the Windsong Stone. 4th Senior Sister Wang Shenjing said helplessly, although these 2 gifts are good, on the day of the Transcendence Dharma Assembly, there will be many similar congratulatory gifts. Our Chonghua Manor and the Unfettered Manor are like birds of a feather. If the congratulatory gifts are given to the crowd, who knows what kind of rumors will spread. 7th Senior Sister Hua Zifang and Lu Ping looked at the congratulatory gifts with stars in their eyes. However, they knew that this was because the 2 of them hadn't reached the core forging realm yet, and their foundation and knowledge couldn't be compared to the 3 Senior Sisters. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then took out the remaining 6 golden nuts from the jade box and said, 4 Senior Sisters, do you think this can be used as a congratulatory gift? 3rd Senior Sister Zhao Xuanji looked at the golden fruit in the box, and her eyes lit up. She asked with some uncertainty, could this be a golden nut that can be used to strengthen the body? It is indeed a golden nut. This little brother was lucky enough to obtain a few in the 7-star sky. A few days ago, besides handing over a few to the sect, I also gave 6 to teacher. Since teacher has given them to me, I naturally have to give them to Grandmaster as well. Not to mention, This little brother has also received Grandmaster's care several times. Lu Ping smiled and explained to third senior sister. Li Xuanru looked at Lu Ping's golden nuts and nodded slightly. Although the value of a golden nut can't compare to a 3,000-year-old spirit herb, it is still a rare item. It is enough to be used as a congratulatory gift for Grandmaster. With these 3 congratulatory gifts, my Chonghua manor won't lose teacher's face during the Transcendence Dharma assembly. Fourth senior sister Wang Shenjing was used to teasing Lu Ping. Seeing Lu Ping take out the treasures, she smiled and said, "No wonder there are rumors that junior brother has gotten a great bargain. There are even some gossipers in the sect who say that 9th junior brother is the boy of many treasures." It turns out that the rumors are not groundless. Lu Ping knew that 4th senior sister was reminding him. He remembered that teacher had also said that there were people in the sect who were jealous of what he had obtained in the 7-star sky. Naturally, he was grateful, but he still said, "The boy of many treasures is too much. I think those people should also know that I have already handed over my gains in the 7-star sky to the sect, and there is not much left in my hands." 7th senior sister also understood the reason for the matter and felt injustice for Lu Ping. These people just can't stand to see others do well. After leaving 2nd senior sister's place, Lu Ping went to Chonghua Palace to visit Master Liu Shenling. He asked some questions about cultivation, especially since Lu Ping was preparing to refine his 12 Zhenchen beads. Naturally, he didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. Unexpectedly, Master Liu Shenling wasn't in Chonghua Palace. He wasn't even in Tianling Mountain. When he asked the maidservants, they didn't know anything. They only knew that Master Liu Shenling suddenly snorted coldly in the morning yesterday, causing the cultivation room to tremble. After that, he left Chonghua Palace with a gloomy face and disappeared. Lu Ping was suspicious, but something that could make Master Liu angry was not something he could interfere with right now. However, teacher didn't inform the 3 core forging senior sisters before he left, so it shouldn't be a difficult matter. As soon as Lu Ping returned to Huangli Island, he immediately asked Fang Dao if Liu Ziyuan and the others had returned. However, he learned that the 6 teams of cultivators from Huangli Island didn't return at the same time. Instead, they returned in scattered groups. Everyone looked tired, and some even had injuries. As for the first patrol team that Liu Ziyuan was in, there was no news from them. Lu Ping was shocked and immediately went to the meeting hall on the island. When he arrived at the meeting hall, Lu Ping received a piece of news that shocked and angered him. On the way back, the 6 patrol teams of Huangli Island were attacked by a core forging expert in the buffer zone. Yang Xian and Mu Zhenren were seriously injured. Then, a large number of demon beasts suddenly appeared. Huangli Island's patrol team was forced to disperse and break out of the siege. The first patrol team was missing. Chapter 195. Originally, the North Sea sects had gathered at the border between the buffer zone and the monster spirits waters. After meeting up with the cultivators who'd rushed to their aid, they fought a fierce battle with the pursuing monster spirits and forced them back into the monster spirits waters. Afterwards, the cultivators dispersed and returned to their respective sects. Led by Master Shen Mu, Huangli Island's 6 patrol squads also returned to Huangli Island. However, just as they separated from the rest of their sects, a giant fist suddenly appeared in the sky and smashed down viciously at the Huangli Island cultivators. Not good. Master Shen Mu cried out and fought with his life on the line. Unfortunately, his cultivation was only at the 2nd level of core forging, and he was gravely injured and spat out blood. The aftermath of the spell dispersed, and under the leadership of the cultivators in charge, the squads deployed the 3 talents and 5 elements formation to resist. Although they barely managed to block the spell's aftermath, the cultivators in charge of the formation were all gravely injured, and the 3 talents and 5 elements formation collapsed. Just as everyone was panicking, the fist didn't appear in the sky. Just as everyone heaved a sigh of relief, they discovered that they'd been surrounded by monster beasts that had suddenly emerged from the sea. There were too many monster beasts, and they couldn't form a formation in their haste to defend themselves. With no other choice, the heavily injured Master Shen Mu had to attack again, creating a gap in the monster encirclement and ordering everyone to split up and break out. Lu Ping's heart raced with worry. Why hadn't anyone sensed such a large group of monster beasts entering the buffer zone and gathering there? Also, why hadn't the mysterious culprit who'd injured Master Shenmue with a single blow attacked Master Shenmue? The Zhonling cultivators present were already powerless to resist, so why did they let the monster beasts do something unnecessary? Just as Lu Ping was about to return to his residence to pack up and head out to sea, Chen Lian and Du Feng suddenly walked in. The two wielded magic tools and emanated a murderous aura. Their bodies were stained with blood, and there were many monster beast wounds on their shoulders and legs. Clearly, they'd just returned to Huangli Island. Chen Lian's face lit up when he saw Lu Ping in the meeting hall, then darkened. Ignoring Lu Ping's urgent questions, he tugged on Lu Ping's arm and said, "Come with me to Master Immortal Liu's residence. He's injured, so we'll talk when we get there." Hu Lili was missing. Lu Ping focused all of his divine sense on the man in front of him. His tremendous divine sense, which could cover a radius of 160 to 700 feet, overlapped layer by layer and enveloped the man in front of him tightly. Around Lu Ping, an invisible, sharp airflow rolled, tore, and shattered many things in the cultivation room. His hair stood on end. Master Immortal Liu, Yarrow Yong, Zhong Jian, and the other members of the 1st Sea Patrol Brigade, as well as the leaders and deputy leaders of the other 5 Sea Patrol Brigades, a total of more than 20 people, watched as Lu Ping unleashed his might on the man before him. Divine sense suppression. This is something only a core forging enlightened master can do. This Lu Ping is only at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. How can he suppress us? The 2 8th layer blood condensation realm vice leaders sitting beside him were looking at Lu Ping with pale faces. Beads of sweat formed on their foreheads and trickled down their cheeks, but they didn't dare to move an inch. Lu Ping's body trembled in fear as he looked at the 8th layer blood condensation realm vice leaders. Master Immortal Liu Ziyuan had already forgotten about his internal injuries. He stared blankly at the ferocious expression on Lu Ping's face and murmured, "Formless turning into tangible form." This is a phenomenon that occurs when one's divine sense is about to transform into divine sense. This kid's divine sense has already reached such a level. In other words, my senior martial sister who voluntarily led the demonic beasts away, allowing you, Leng Qian, and 9th junior martial sister to escape. With great difficulty, Lu Ping suppressed the killing intent in his heart and asked word by word. His voice was low and deep as he spoke through gritted teeth. The man before him blushed. It was unclear whether it was because of Lu Ping's suppression or the shame in his heart. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Li Ziming, who was sitting on the other side, laughed dryly and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Lu, please don't be angry. Your murderous expression made Junior Marshal Brother Yuan speechless. Moreover, Junior Marshal Sister who voluntarily led the demonic beasts away, so you can't blame Junior Marshal Brother Yuan, shut up." Lu Ping turned his head and glared at Li Ziming. His divine sense mixed with killing intent blew up a cloud of dust in the cultivation room and rushed towards Li Ziming. Li Ziming's head was pushed back by the impact of this spiritual consciousness. Suddenly, he felt a burst of dizziness. Li Ziming reacted in an exceptionally angry manner. His whole body's magic power surged. It seemed that if he did not say a word, blood would splash 5 steps away. However, Lu Ping's eyes were like 2 sharp swords. Li Ziming didn't dare to look at him. At the same time, he could feel Lu Ping's powerful divine sense scanning his body. Li Ziming understood that Lu Ping wanted someone to give him an excuse to start a massacre. Li Ziming, who had a grudge against Lu Ping, was undoubtedly his favorite target. Indeed, Lu Ping wanted to kill right now. However, he had been on the verge of death many times, so he didn't lose his mind. Although Li Ziming was trying to help the man in front of him, Lu Ping still slowly retracted his divine sense. The dust that was crushed by Lu Ping's divine sense slowly fell to the ground, and everyone in the cultivation room heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't expect Lu Ping's aura to be able to suppress all the late blood condensation realm cultivators in the room. Lu Ping was still locked on to him. If he couldn't explain himself, he would be greeted by Lu Ping's killing blow. The person in front of him was none other than Yuan Zhon. During the Zhenling Side Hall's grand competition, he was defeated by Lu Ping and eliminated from the competition. Now, he was a 7th layer blood condensation realm cultivator and a member of the 5th patrol team. Yuan Zhon looked at Lu Ping with lingering fear. His face was still red, but his eyes had calmed down. He said coldly, Junior brother Lu is so majestic. Do you really think you are a core-forging enlightened master? Yuan Zhon was actually mocking Lu Ping for being arrogant and not putting the leaders in his eyes. Lu Ping remained unmoved, but his eyes had already turned cold and emitted a dense killing intent. Yarrow Yong was a hot-tempered person. He couldn't stand people talking in a roundabout way. Moreover, Yarrow Yong believed that it was a man's job to lure the demonic beasts away, but he used a woman as a scapegoat. He already saw Yuan Zhon as a weakling. Without waiting for Lu Ping to speak, Yarrow Yong started scolding, "If you have something to say, say it. Who are you trying to listen to your nonsense?" Lu Ping didn't care about Yuan Zhon's provocative words at all. He only wanted to hear the whole story. If Yuan Zhon couldn't give him a reasonable explanation, Lu Ping wouldn't hesitate to kill him on the spot. Even if Yuan Zhon was telling the truth, in Lu Ping's eyes, Yuan Zhon would only live a little longer. Lu Ping had never hated a person so much. Lu Ping didn't care about the reason why a woman had to take the blame. He just wanted Yuan Zhon to die. Hu Lily died because of him, so he had to die with her. This was the Scarlet Robe Fruit's wrath. Lu Ping didn't hide his anger at Yuan Zhon. Yuan Zhon seemed to have sensed it, but he still tried his best to calm down from Lu Ping's killing intent. He recounted what happened yesterday. Chapter 196. In Liu Ziyuan's training room, the leaders and deputy leaders of the 6 patrol teams were all present. All of them were injured. Other than Hu Lily and Leng Qian, all the members of the 1st patrol team were present, and Yuan Zhon was narrating what had happened. That day, after Master Yang Xuanmu gave the order to split up and break out of the encirclement, he fainted due to the exhaustion of his inner Yuan and his severe injuries. A few of the leaders tried their best to protect him. The first group was also split up during the breakout process. In the midst of the chaos, Hu Lily, Leng Qian, Jiang Zixuan, and Yuan Zhon gathered together. After breaking out of the encirclement, they escaped towards Huangli Island. The 4 of them couldn't shake off the pursuit of the beasts. Among them, there were 5 to 6 late blood condensation beasts. Moreover, these beasts had the geographical advantage and were extremely fast in the sea. After a series of battles, the 4 of them used up too much of their spiritual energy and slowed down. At this time, Hu Lily said, "Junior brother Yuan and junior sister Leng, take junior sister Jiang and leave first. I'll lure the beasts away. This time, the beasts are targeting junior sister Jiang. We can't let her fall into the hands of the beasts." Yuan Zhon and Leng Qian didn't agree, but Hu Lily insisted. She said that perfected Jiang Shenlin had successfully achieved Dharma and defeated Golden Jiao Island's lord. The beasts couldn't do anything to perfected Jiang, so they wanted to capture junior sister Jiang for revenge. The 2 of them wanted to persuade her further, but Hu Lily had already turned around and ran in the direction of the beasts. Left with no choice, the 2 of them brought the unconscious Jiang Zixuan back to North Sea. Unexpectedly, on the way, a middle-aged female cultivator in palace attire suddenly appeared and snatched Jiang Zixuan from the 2 of them. Yuan Zhon was shocked, but when he heard Leng Qian calling her master, Yuan Zhon realized that the person who appeared was Zhenling sect's famous Reverend Liu Shenling, Reverend Jiang Xuanlin's ex-partner and Jiang Zixuan's mother. Perfected Liu Shenling brought Jiang Zixuan and Leng Qian back to Qianling Mountain, leaving Yuan Zhon alone to return to Huangli Island. Lu Ping's eyes glazed over and his face was expressionless, as if the person who was angry just now wasn't this person. His tone was calm, as if he was talking about something unrelated to him. He asked, "Why is Junior Marshal Sister in Huangli Island's patrol team?" Yuan Zhon did not answer. Instead, he looked at Liu Ziyuan, who was sitting at the head of the table. Liu Ziyuan coughed twice. His voice was hoarse, and it was obvious that he had suffered serious internal injuries. He said, Junior sister Jiang must have come out with Jiang Shenlin and Laozu. After that, she came to play with junior sister Leng Qian and stayed in the first patrol team to replace you. Liu Ziyuan paused and said, before Daoist Yang fainted, he said that the person who launched the sneak attack was indeed targeting junior martial sister Jiang. The strength of the owner of that fist is definitely at the middle stage of the core forging stage. However, because he was trying his best to hide his identity, he didn't dare to use his full strength. Otherwise, Daoist Yang and I wouldn't have been able to resist him. Liu Ziyuan explained to him, and Lu Ping became a little more respectful. Then, he asked, why did the person who ambushed us leave after one attack? Liu Ziyuan shook his head and said, that I don't know. Shi Lingling, who was sitting to the side, said, junior martial sister Jiang must have had a protective talisman or some other treasure on her that could have alerted Uncle Liu or Uncle Jiang the moment she was attacked. The person who ambushed her must have sensed it during the first attack and left before the second one. Maybe even Uncle Jiang had already arrived at that time. Everyone's eyes lit up after hearing Shi Lingling's words. After all, Shi Lingling's status was no less than Jiang Zixuan's at this time. In fact, she was even higher than Jiang Zixuan. Since she said that Jiang Zixuan had such a treasure, it must be because Jiang Zixuan had it. Lu Ping remembered that the gatekeeper of Chonghua Mansion had said that yesterday, Master had been angry and suddenly left Chonghua Mansion. Obviously, he had discovered that junior martial sister Jiang was in danger and went to rescue her. However, Master was definitely not as fast as Grandmaster, who had already reached the Dharma stage. By the time Master arrived, everyone had already broken through the encirclement. Lu Ping still asked coldly, how did you meet senior martial sister Leng Qian and the other two? Lu Ping was as cold as ever. It was as if he had become the master of this training room. He ignored the dozens of leaders sitting around him and only showed a little bit of respect when Liu Ziyuan spoke. However, everyone present was stunned by Lu Ping's imposing manner just now. They quietly listened to Lu Ping and Yuan Zhon's questions. Although Li Ziming's face was filled with anger, he did not dare to show it at this moment. Lu Ping's roar just now had left him with a lingering fear. Yuan Zhon was a little embarrassed at this moment, but under Lu Ping's piercing gaze, he still said, Leng Qian is my fiancé. The Yuan and Leng families decided on this marriage when we were young. No one present knew about this. Yuan Zhon added, I was worried about junior martial sister Leng's safety, so when we broke through the encirclement, I went to look for her. As a result, there was nothing wrong with Yuan Zhon's explanation. Lu Ping maintained a calm expression after his initial rage. No one knew what he was thinking. Lu Ping squinted his eyes. It was unknown whether he was thinking about something or whether he was examining Yuan Zhon to see if he was lying. Just when Yuan Zhon's heart was about to shiver from Lu Ping's gaze, Lu Ping turned around and walked out of the training room. Chen Lian hurriedly called out to him from the side, Junior Lu, where are you going? Lu Ping did not even look back. He said, I'm going out to sea to find Senior Hu. Chen Lian hurriedly tried to persuade him, it's already been over a day. Junior, you should return to the Heaven Spirit Hall and see if Junior Hu's lamp of knowledge is still lit. If it's lit, then we can all go look for it. If it's not, then there's no need. We'll just take revenge in the future. A whistling sound gradually faded away. Lu Ping's deep voice rang out from afar, she won't die. Yarrow Yong yelled and stood up. He said, Junior Lu, I'll go with you. Before he could finish, he coughed violently and spat out a few strands of blood. Shi Lingling grabbed him and said, how are you going to find Senior Hu in this state? If you go out to sea now, even if you don't die, you'll be a burden to Junior Lu. Everyone in the training room seemed to let out a sigh of relief when Lu Ping left. The pressure Lu Ping brought on everyone was just too great. The cultivators in the training room all stood up and said their goodbyes. It was as if there was a plague in the room. They hurriedly left, without the slightest demeanor of a cultivator. After all the leaders left, only the first group was left in the training room. Yarrow Yong said angrily, Leng Qian is Junior Lu Ping's senior after all. How could he just watch Senior Hu throw away her life? Shi Lingling pinched his arm and said, we didn't see it with our own eyes. It's only Yuan Zhon's side of the story. How can we jump to conclusions? Zheng Jie had always been close to Hu Lili. If Leng Qian didn't have a guilty conscience, why would she hide in Chonghua Prefecture with her master instead of returning to Huangli Island? Everyone was stunned. Liu Ziyuan said sternly, "All right, this matter ends here. Don't forget that Liu Xianling is Junior Lu Ping's master. The most important thing for us now is to recover from our injuries. I've already sent someone back to Tianling Mountain to check on Junior Hu Lili's consciousness lamp. If it's still there, we'll go out to sea to look for it. If not, let's hope Junior Hu Lili is a good person." Everyone fell silent. Liu Ziyuan had a question tormenting him. Why didn't Yuan Zhon and Leng Qian ask him to go back and save Hu Lili after he arrived? Did they not mention it, or were they lying? Liu Ziyuan believed that Lu Ping also noticed this loophole, but he didn't ask. Lu Ping didn't ask either. It wasn't that he didn't want to ask, but he didn't dare to. What if the two of them did ask for help? Lu Ping didn't dare to think about it, let alone Liu Ziyuan. By the time Yuan Zhon left Liu Ziyuan's training room, it was already nighttime on Huangli Island. When the wind blew on Yuan Zhon's body, he suddenly felt a chill down his spine. If he told others, no one would believe that a late blood condensation cultivator like him couldn't withstand the cold and heat. It wasn't impatience, it was fear. Yuan Zhon didn't admit it, but he knew in his heart that he had lost mentally to Lu Ping, the person who defeated him in the Zhenling side courtyard competition. He had lost since then. Even though his cultivation had been rising, he never had the confidence to defeat this cultivator who was younger than him, and whose cultivation was even lower than his. After returning to the training room, Yuan Zhon sat on the praying mat and meditated quietly for a moment. He temporarily forgot about that person's shadow in his mind, then sat there silently. No one knew what he was thinking. There was no light in the pitch-black training room. Only Yuan Zhon's pair of black eyes could be seen flashing in the darkness from time to time. After a while, 3 sound-transmitting magic swords flew out from the pitch-black training room. 3 golden shadows streaked across the night sky of Huangli Island. 2 of them flew towards the northwest, while the last one flew towards the south. In the sky above Huangli Island, in the clouds that covered the starlight, Lu Ping stood on a magic cloud and quietly looked down at Huangli Island until the 3 sound-transmitting magic swords flew out from the training room. Lu Ping landed on the cloud and came to the edge of Huangli Island. A rat that looked like a fat pig with its belly almost touching the ground suddenly crawled out from the ground near Yuan Zhon's training room. It walked silently towards the edge of Huangli Island. Its body became smaller and smaller, and by the time it arrived in front of Lu Ping, it was only a foot long. Dabao climbed onto Lu Ping's shoulder and squeaked a few times with a helpless expression. Lu Ping frowned and muttered to himself, "It didn't say anything. It seems like this guy is a cautious person. Moreover, I don't think anyone would be willing to visit him at this time. It's a pity that the 3 sound-transmitting magic swords couldn't be intercepted. Once the sound-transmitting magic swords are intercepted, they will explode. Not only will they not be able to get any information, but they will also alert the person who sent the sound-transmitting magic swords." However, one of the magic swords flew towards the south. Huangli Island is located in the southeast of Zhenling, and further south is Xianling sect's territory. This is interesting. Lu Ping glanced in the direction of Yuan Zhon's cultivation room from the seaside. Then, he looked in the northwest direction in the direction of Tianling Mountain. No one knew what he was thinking. Then, he turned around and flew eastward on his cloud. Chapter 197. In the distance, a young man in his 20s with a pale face was standing on the back of a huge sea turtle. 3 sea snakes that were more than 30 meters long were playing around the turtle. At the same time, their long tongues were moving in and out of their mouths, making hissing sounds as if they were reporting something to the young man on the back of the turtle. The blue luan let out a long cry and swooped down towards the young man. Its body became smaller and smaller, and when it finally landed on the young man's shoulder, it was only a foot long. The blue luan on Lu Ping's shoulder chirped a few times. Lu Ping sneered and said, "As expected, there's a ghost." It's fast. Lu Ping was currently at the place where Yuan Zhon said Hu Lili separated from Leng Qian and the rest. This place wasn't too far away from the demon territory. Hu Lili always planned before she acted. She never did anything she wasn't sure of. If what Yuan Zhon said was true, and Hu Lili voluntarily lured the demonic beasts away, then she must have a way to escape. Lu Ping didn't think that Hu Lili would die. Other than Dabao, all of Lu Ping's spiritual pets were sent out to gather information. Samling roamed around the demon territory for an entire day, but he didn't see a single mid or late blood condensation demonic beast. He only met a few early blood condensation demonic beasts. Although they had developed intelligence, they still couldn't communicate with each other. What worried Lu Ping was the sudden disappearance of the mid or late blood condensation demonic beasts in the demon territory. Lu Ping waved his hand and kept all of his spiritual pets into his spirit beast pouch. The seawater under his feet suddenly rose up along his body, forming a water man on the surface of the sea. Then, the water man suddenly collapsed, and water splashed everywhere. But Lu Ping was nowhere to be seen. After a while, a cultivator with a blurry figure suddenly flew past the nearby sea. The cultivator seemed to have sensed something and stopped to spread out his divine sense. After a careful search, he found nothing. He shook his head in a self-deprecating manner and headed northeast. At the bottom of the sea, over 1,000 feet behind the cultivator, there was an undercurrent swirling in the direction the cultivator had gone. Although Lu Ping's invisible sword spell had improved his invisibility by a lot, he still didn't dare to be careless. Relying on his divine sense that far surpassed cultivators in the same realm as him, he followed the suspicious cultivator from a distance of more than 1,000 feet under the sea. At this moment, Lu Ping was like a fish swimming freely in the sea, like a wanderer returning to his mother's embrace. Lu Ping suddenly recalled the day in the seven-star skies. Daoist Jin Li's 600 sword lights were filled with spirituality, and when he retreated, the sword lights formed a lifelike big fish. Lu Ping seemed to have understood something. He stretched out a finger, and a stream of seawater condensed into a water sword. The nature of this water sword was no different from the surrounding seawater, and it floated along with the waves. However, through this water sword, Lu Ping was able to grasp the rhythm of the sea's undulations. In that instant, the water sword seemed to have a life of its own. It melted with the seawater, yet it was different from the seawater. Lu Ping was overjoyed. This was the psychic sword light. He didn't expect that under these coincidental circumstances, he would actually comprehend the realm of psychic sword light. With a flick of his hand, Lu Ping sent out another water sword. This time, it was as agile as before, as if it could grasp the pulse of the sea. Lu Ping sent out one water sword after another. After sending out the 55th water sword, the water sword finally lost its spirituality, appearing out of place in the sea. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ping erased the other 54 water swords. Although he was still far from reaching the level of Daoist Jin Li's 648 sword lights, to him, this was already an incredible improvement. Suppressing the joy brought about by his improvement in swordsmanship, Lu Ping raised his head. There was no trace of the blurred figure of the cultivator in the air. Lu Ping laughed bitterly, and slowly floated to the surface of the water. Could it be that I was wrong? Your Excellency is truly skilled, to actually be able to follow me for such a long time. If it weren't for your Excellency's sword chi soaring to the heavens and revealing your tracks, I'm afraid I wouldn't have even known that I was being followed. Lu Ping turned around vigilantly, looking at the person who spoke. Who else could it be other than the cultivator he had been following? He didn't know what method this person had used, but when Lu Ping floated to the surface of the water, he had concealed his tracks, so Lu Ping hadn't noticed him. Lu Ping laughed bitterly, knowing that it was because he had just entered a state of enlightenment. Although he had comprehended the realm of psychic sword light, he had been so engrossed in practicing his swordsmanship that he had forgotten to conceal himself, allowing the cultivator to discover his tracks. Lu Ping's heart stirred, but he didn't immediately tear apart the cultivator. Instead, he asked in a serious tone, "And what is your Excellency doing here? Are you a cultivator from Zhenling?" The cultivator asked in a deep voice. His blurred figure took 2 steps back, and Lu Ping knew that the cultivator's spiritual energy was surging, and he was on guard. Lu Ping didn't deny it. Instead, he said ambiguously, "My goal is the same as your excellency's. Aren't we both here for that many treasures, boy?" Lu Ping's face was covered by a pale mask, and he had also deliberately changed his voice. He had also used the spirit concealment technique to conceal his cultivation level to the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm. As Lu Ping spoke, his divine sense had been wandering around the cultivator's body. When he said "many treasures, boy," the cultivator's spiritual energy had relaxed a little, and he knew that his guess was correct. The cultivator continued to ask, "Which sect are you from, Your Excellency? Why didn't I know that Your Excellency was participating in this operation?" Lu Ping snorted coldly, and with an angry expression, he said, "That idiot said that I'm no match for that surnamed Lu. I have a deep grudge against that surnamed Lu, and I'm not the only one dealing with him. No matter what, I want to see him die in front of me." The cultivator laughed loudly, and suddenly realized something. "You must be Xianling Sect's junior martial brother Zhong Weiqing, right? I've long heard that junior martial brother Zhong has suffered a lot because of this surnamed Lu. A few years ago, all the sect sent cultivators to Zhenling's buffer zone to kill this person, and junior martial brother Zhong was the most proactive one. However, junior martial brother Zhong's cultivation level is only at the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm, and it's indeed difficult for you to deal with that many treasures, boy. No wonder that person didn't recommend you to participate in this mission." Lu Ping put on an angry expression, but in his heart, he understood many things. All along, Lu Ping had always thought that Li Ziming and his son were the ones who leaked the news that he was being hunted by the various sects. He didn't expect it to be related to Yuan Zhon. The strange thing was that Lu Ping didn't have any grudges with Yuan Zhon at that time. The cultivator mistook the pale-faced cultivator in front of him for Xianling Sect's Zhong Weiqing. Naturally, Lu Ping made the best of his mistake. When the cultivator invited Lu Ping to join the others, Lu Ping readily agreed. The moment the cultivator turned around, Lu Ping's Qinghan sword was already stabbing towards the cultivator's back. Although the cultivator believed most of Lu Ping's words, it wasn't as if he didn't have his guard up. The moment Lu Ping's sword stabbed towards the cultivator had already activated his protective energy barrier. At the same time, the cultivator's blurry figure suddenly solidified, and a white mist wrapped around the Qinghan sword. Chapter 198. Although the cultivator tried his best to resist, Lu Ping was not an ordinary cultivator. The Qinghan sword broke through the cultivator's defense and opened a big hole in his back. "You're not Zhong Weiqing, who are you?" The cultivator tried his best to suppress the injury on his body and asked in surprise. A trace of panic flashed across his face, but it did not escape Lu Ping's eyes. Lu Ping did not answer. After seriously injuring the cultivator, he took advantage of the situation and attacked again. The Qinghan sword stabbed out again, and 162 sword lights bombarded the cultivator. This time, however, the sword beams were different from the previous attacks. The 162 sword beams were divided into 54 groups. Each group was led by a sword beam with a spiritual connection. They formed a simple tripartite array, and 54 tripartite arrays struck the cultivator's defensive magic artifact in quick succession. The cultivator was shocked. He never thought that the person in front of him had reached such a level of swordsmanship. A green light flashed in his hand, and thousands of green leaves and branches fell down, protecting the cultivator behind. A talisman treasure? Lu Ping's eyes twitched. So what? This talisman treasure was obviously made by an early-stage core forging sage. It could block one of his swords, but could it block several of his swords? Lu Ping shook the Qinghan sword and stabbed out 2 more times. However, after Lu Ping stabbed out 3 times in a row, the scene that appeared in front of him was really unexpected. Originally, Lu Ping was very afraid of the power of talismans. He had used talismans several times to get out of trouble. However, just as Lu Ping's first strike was formed from 54 spirit-connected sword rays and formed dozens of simple and crude 3-talent sword arrays. They rushed towards the myriad woods forest, spell created by the talisman treasure, the simple 3-talent sword arrays easily destroyed half of the early core forging realm enlightened master's spell. Then, the second sword light followed, and the forest of 10,000 trees became withering of 10,000 trees. The remaining 30 or so sword lights directly hit the cultivator's protective magic treasure, and the magic treasure shattered. When the third sword beam arrived, the cultivator watched in horror as the cultivator's body was split into 54 pieces. Next, the minor 3-talent sword array stirred and the cultivator was reduced to a rain of blood. Lu Ping stared blankly at the scene in front of him, unable to react for a long time. He believed that his swordsmanship would certainly be able to break the core forging stage's myriad trees forest spell, but he never thought that he would be able to break more than half of it with just one sword strike. Lu Ping was speechless when he saw the cultivator's body being torn to shreds by his 3 swords. He did not have the bad taste to dismember corpses. However, this was not the first time Lu Ping had done this. After his swordsmanship reached the level of sword light psychic, it became so powerful. Just after the cultivator took off the protective gauze, the cultivator's blurry figure became clear. Lu Ping had already recognized that this person was senior brother Zhao of the Sea Flame sect who chased him for a month. This gauze was quite good. When worn on the body, combined with the protective aura, it could hide the cultivator's figure. At the same time, it also had the effect of invisibility. This was also the reason why Lu Ping did not find senior brother Zhao when he emerged from the sea. Looking at the former enemy in front of him die so easily in his hands, Lu Ping was silent for a while, then he activated the 10,000 falling poison spirit that he had just cultivated. The gauze fluttered under the agitation of the aura, and Lu Ping's figure suddenly became blurred. From a distance, it was not much different from senior brother Zhao's previous image, but there was a faint layer of gold in the blurred figure. At this time, on a nameless coral island near the Demon Territory's territorial waters, the originally lush forest was now covered with a thin layer of frost. A dozen early blood condensation demonic beasts were circling the island under the lead of a few mid-blood condensation demonic beasts. Suddenly, 8 flying fish demonic beasts jumped out of the sea and flew towards the coral island. When the flying fish demonic beasts entered the forest, a gust of cold wind blew towards them. The water vapor on the flying fish demonic beasts' bodies instantly turned into icicles. The demonic beasts did not panic. They circulated their demonic spiritual energy on the surface of their bodies. Although the icicles on their bodies increased, it did not affect the flying fish's speed and agility. However, the flying fish demonic beasts thought that they would be able to pass through the forest in no time. But after passing through row after row, the forest suddenly became endless. At this time, the icicles on the flying fish finally covered the demonic beasts' bodies. Due to flying for a long time and resisting the cold wind, the flying fish demonic beasts finally exhausted their spiritual energy and fell into the forest. At this time, 2 green jade hairpins appeared out of nowhere and stabbed the flying fish demonic beasts to death. Looks like this woman is still holding on. Isn't this better? It saves us the trouble of cleaning up those demonic beasts and not leaving any traces. Do you think that Lu Ping will really come? According to the information from Huangli Island, he has indeed set out to sea. But he's really slow. We deliberately left so many clues, but he still hasn't come after 3 days. The sea is turbulent, and the sea breeze is endless. How can there be any clues left behind? That's right. We came here early because of the information provided by a mole on Huangli Island. But who would have thought that this man's mistress is still alive? She even set up a formation on this coral island. She managed to hold on until now under the siege of 20 to 30 demonic beasts, and even killed a dozen of them. This woman and that brat cannot be underestimated. When that brat comes, we'll kill both of them at the same time. This time, once he comes, he won't be able to escape. Don't be careless. Have you forgotten how he escaped from the few of you a few years ago? H, he was just lucky. If it wasn't for the overflowing sea gang's interference, he wouldn't have escaped. This time, we have so many people to deal with him. This is already the best treatment anyone under the core forging realm can get. Indeed, We're making a mountain out of a molehill. Junior brother Ouyang Wei Jian said that this man is only on par with him. Although he's difficult to deal with, we are far stronger than him. Moreover, he's just a new late blood condensation cultivator. Speaking of which, why isn't Zhao Chongyun from the Sea Flame sect here yet? The Sea Flame sect is located in the southernmost part of the North Sea. It's normal for them to be the last to arrive. They're here. The Sea Flame sect's Mirage Sea Robe. In the void around the little coral island, several late blood condensation cultivators were hiding. They surrounded the little coral island, and at the same time, their divine sense was sending messages back and forth without restraint. At this time, Lu Ping, who was disguised as the Sea Flame sect's Zhao Chongyun, was still wearing the Mirage Sea Robe. He glanced at the formation on the coral island, then at the void around the island. The Mirage Sea Robe spread out, and Lu Ping disappeared from the void. Brother Zhao, you're late. Lu Ping imitated Zhao Chongyun's voice and snorted coldly. He didn't say anything, but he could tell that it was Xianling sect's Zhong Weiqing's voice. Brother Zhao, did you notice any traces of that kid along the way? Why did you hide yourself with the Mirage Sea Robe when you're near us? The one who spoke was Zhu Weilong. He didn't expect Zhong Weiqing to be here as well. Unhurriedly, Lu Ping continued to imitate Zhao Chongyun's tone and said, Brother Zhu, you're early. To be honest, I don't have full confidence in this operation. This person's arcane energy is extraordinary, and it's better to keep a low profile. If we fail to stop him, we'll be in big trouble in the future. The people hidden in the void fell silent. It was obvious that they were pondering over Zhao Chongyun's words. After a long while, a deep voice rang out, Brother Zhao, you're exaggerating. This person is only on par with my junior brother Ouyang. I have a deep friendship with junior brother Ouyang, and I know his strength very well. This time, I'll make sure that Zhenling sect's treasure boy falls here. Lu Ping's eyelids twitched. He didn't know who this person was, but he guessed that this person was Zhenling's disciple. He sneered and said, You sure have a good tone. It's no wonder that Xianling sect has 3 of the 18 generals of the North Sea. You're like the sun in the sky, so of course you can talk big. Everyone present could hear the mockery in Zhao Chongyun's tone. They knew that Peng Chongqing, one of the 18 generals of the North Sea, was killed by Ouyang Wei Jian of Xianling sect. It was inevitable that some people would say some sarcastic words. Ha ha ha, senior brother Miao Weidong of Xianling sect, junior brother Zhao of Haiyan sect, we're all here for that brat Zhenling. Let's not ruin our friendship because of trivial matters. Zhao Chongyun was surprised. I didn't expect senior sister He Listen of Shui Yang Pavilion to be here too. This senior brother Miao must be Miao Weidong. With the strength of senior sister He and brother Miao, the 2 of the 18 generals of the North Sea, this Lu guy won't have an easy time. He Listen continued to giggle. This Lu brat tricked me in the 7-star sky. This time, I'll get back at him no matter what. Brother Miao and junior brother Zhu Weilong are from the same sect, and he was even invited by junior brother Zhu. This Lu brat sure has a lot of face. The group was hidden in the air, and they could recognize each other through their divine sense and voice. However, they couldn't see each other's faces clearly. Hence, other than the 4 that Lu Ping could recognize, the other 5 were unknown. Lu Ping was only able to imitate Zhao Chongyun's presence because he had interacted with Zhao Chongyun before. That was why he was able to imitate Zhao Chongyun's presence with his divine sense, and with the help of the Mirage Sea Robe, no one was able to see through his disguise. What is this formation used for? Zhao Chongyun asked purposely. The one who set up this frost forest formation is that Lu brat's lover. I didn't expect him to be so lucky to have survived until now despite being surrounded by dozens of demonic beasts. However, he was discovered by us, so we left some clues here and waited for that Lu brat to come and die. Zhong Weiqing said through gritted teeth. Since we have such a lousy array formation, it's fine if someone is in charge of it. We can also catch that brat off guard. Leaving that woman in there will always be an unstable factor. Let me enter the array formation and take his life first, Lu Ping said coldly. Chapter 199. Lu Ping ignored them and landed on the island. He listened, said anxiously, "Junior Marshal Brother Zhao, this formation is still quite powerful. Even if your cultivation is much higher than the person in charge of the formation, it will still take a lot of effort to break it. If Junior Marshal Brother Zhao is determined to capture that Lu woman, then go down with the rest of us." As soon as he listened finished speaking, Zhong Weiqing volunteered himself and said, "Count me in." Then, another 2 people followed Lu Ping into the formation. All 4 of them were in the 7th or 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the formation. This Zhao Changyun is really impatient. If he can't take down this formation in one piece, we might have to spend more effort. Hehe, you don't know how badly Junior Marshal Brother Zhao was harmed by that Lu woman. Out of the entire group of 20 cultivators, only he managed to escape back to Hai Yang sect. Even now, not only has his status not been revoked, it has been extended for another 10 years. The one who spoke was Xianling sect's Zhu Weilong, and his tone was filled with schadenfreude. With 4 late blood condensation cultivators working together, that woman will definitely be captured easily. If we can use this frost forest formation to trap that Lu Ziping, it will be much easier to capture or kill him. After all, even though it won't be a problem for us to defeat him, it's not like we won't suffer any losses either. How are we going to split the treasures on him? This person was also one of the surviving cultivators. As soon as this person finished speaking, the remaining 6 people tensed up. Miao Weidong coughed and said, "Let's talk about it after we kill Lu Ziping." Of course, they didn't know that Lu Ping had long been suspicious of Yuan Zhon. Ever since he went out to sea, he had been very careful. He had long noticed their tracks and had even schemed to kill Zhao Changyun, then hid among them. The Frost Forest array in front of him was not only the most powerful array that Hu Lili had mastered, it was also the array that Hu Lili had explained the most to Lu Ping. Lu Ping did not have much knowledge about array formations. However, array formations were after all frequently used by cultivators. It was fine if Lu Ping did not know about them, but he had to have some understanding of them. Especially after Hu Lili found out that Lu Ping had been besieged several times by people using array formations, she explained a few methods of breaking array formations to him. This Frost Forest array was Hu Lili's proudest achievement, so naturally, she explained the most. After Lu Ping entered the formation, he removed the mirage robe that was wrapped around his body and restored his original appearance. Then, he followed Hu Lili's instructions and walked within the formation to avoid triggering the power of the formation. Lu Ping's powerful divine sense spread out and followed the gaps in the formation. In an instant, he found Hu Lili. Hu Lili, who was meditating to recover, raised her head and looked around. Lu Ping could feel that although her aura had weakened, she was not injured. It was obvious that the continuous fighting and maintaining the operation of the formation had exhausted her arcane energy. Seeing that Hu Lili was unharmed, Lu Ping heaved a sigh of relief. The tension that had been building up over the past few days finally subsided. Zhong Weiqing followed closely behind Lu Ping. By the time he entered the formation, he had already lost sight of Lu Ping. Zhong Weiqing was in the late blood condensation realm. Even if the person inside the formation activated the formation, it would still take a lot of effort to deal with him. As long as he could hold on for a while, the other 3 would naturally be able to break the formation. At that time, he would be able to capture this woman. At the thought of using this woman to humiliate his greatest enemy, Zhong Weiqing could almost see Lu Ping being driven mad by him. He couldn't help but feel a burst of excitement in his heart. At that moment, Zhong Weiqing seemed to hear something and immediately became alert. However, there was not the slightest movement around him. Zhong Weiqing looked at the branches of the forest above him. Because of the array formation, they were all covered in frost, forming a scene of rime. Zhong Weiqing thought to himself, "This formation is not bad for enjoying the scenery." At that moment, an ice shard hanging on a branch fell from the branch as if the branch could not bear the weight of the ice shard. The ice shard fell about 2 to 3 feet away from Zhong Weiqing. Zhong Weiqing did not mind. However, when the ice shard fell to the same height as Zhong Weiqing, it made a strange turn and shot out a sword light, slashing towards Zhong Weiqing's throat. This happened so suddenly that Zhong Weiqing did not expect an ice shard to turn into a top-grade flying sword. Zhong Weiqing did not have time to say anything. He hurriedly took out a high-grade magic artifact from his storage bag and raised his protective chi. However, it was too late. Under Lu Ping's invisible sword art, the Qinghan sword had decapitated the person who had tried to frame him several times. Looking at the corpse on the ground, Lu Ping sighed. Such a person could no longer enter Lu Ping's vision. Lu Ping turned and smiled at the depths of the formation. He knew that Hu Lili had already sensed his arrival, so she used the formation to cooperate with Lu Ping's actions. This caused Zhong Weiqing to be killed by Lu Ping with one strike without even a chance to warn her. Just as Lu Ping looked back, Hu Lili seemed to have a telepathic connection with him. The frost tree behind Lu Ping swayed from side to side, and the icicles hanging on the tree tinkled as if Hu Lili's laughter was echoing in his ears. With the concealment of the formation, Lu Ping was not afraid that Miao Weidong and the others outside the formation would see his face. With Hu Lili's cooperation, Lu Ping used the formation to silently kill the other two. After collecting the spoils of war, Lu Ping turned here and there. The frost forest in front of him suddenly moved away from Lu Ping, and a clearing in the forest appeared in front of Lu Ping. A beautiful figure in green was sitting cross-legged on the lush green grass. Who else could it be but Hu Lili? Hu Lili tucked a strand of hair behind her. Her face was slightly pale from overexertion of transcendence energy. She smiled at Lu Ping crisply. Her bright eyes were like crescent moons. There was a hint of gratitude, a hint of gratification, a hint of pride, and a hint of playfulness from a little girl succeeding in her scheme. The two of them looked at each other. A hint of relief remained in Lu Ping's gaze. The hint of pride and playfulness in Hu Lili's gaze was even stronger. Her two pitch-black eyes became like two full moons in a deep well. I knew you would come to pick me up. Hu Lili stood up with a smile. Lu Ping had already walked to her side. Are you injured? Lu Ping asked softly. With all the pills you left behind, even if I was injured, I would have long recovered. Hu Lili spun in a circle in front of Lu Ping, indicating that she was unharmed. In front of Lu Ping, Hu Lili had always presented herself as a mature and intelligent person. This was the first time she had displayed such a timid behavior in front of Lu Ping. Hu Lili looked at Lu Ping's stunned gaze and giggled. Lu Ping also laughed softly. Hu Lili laughed blissfully, and Lu Ping laughed joyfully. The 6 people outside the Frost Forest array finally sensed that something was wrong. The 4 of them had entered the array for such a long time, but there was not the slightest movement from the array, nor was there any news coming out. Even if a school of flying fish demonic beasts had entered, it would still cause the person in charge of the array to expend some effort. Could it be that among the 4 of them, there was an expert proficient in array formations who had already infiltrated the array's eye and killed the woman in charge of the array with a single slash? Chapter 200. Something's not right. There's something wrong with that Zhao Changyun. Everyone finally sensed that something was wrong. He Listen, who was more meticulous, thought of something. Everyone present was an elite of the blood condensation realm, so they were naturally quick-witted people. They immediately noticed that Zhao Changyun hadn't revealed his true appearance since the beginning. They only knew his identity from the mirage robe that was unique to the Sea Flame sect. However, there was one thing they didn't understand. If this Zhao Changyun was really an imposter, then how could he use the mirage robe that only the Sea Flame sect's secret technique could use? Could it be that this person was Zhenling's spy in the Sea Flame sect? Clearly, no one thought so. In the Frost Forest array, Lu Ping told Hu Lili everything that happened in Liu Ziyuan's cultivation room on Huangli Island. It was completely different from what Hu Lili had told Lu Ping. That day, it was exactly as Yuan Zhon had said. The 3 of them protected the unconscious Jiang Zixuan and got separated from the rest of the group. However, the demonic beasts that were chasing them seemed to have locked onto Hu Lili's group of 4. 8 late blood condensation demonic beasts and 30 to 40 mid blood condensation demonic beasts chased after them relentlessly. Once they caught up to them, the 4 of them would definitely die. Hu Lily's cultivation was at the 5th level of the blood condensation realm. She was the weakest among the 4, and she was also an array cultivator. Compared to Yuan Zhon and Leng Qian, who were carrying the unconscious Jiang Zixuan, her speed was much slower. Gradually, the distance between Hu Lily and the 3 of them widened. However, Yuan Zhon and Leng Qian seemed to have forgotten that Hu Lily was still behind them. They only focused on flying, ignoring Hu Lily's shouts. At this time, how could Hu Lily not know that the 2 of them had abandoned her to block the demonic beasts? Forget about Yuan Zhon, but when she thought about how Leng Qian, who was close to them and Lu Ping's senior sister, actually did such a thing, Hu Lily shuddered. Hu Lily was also a decisive person. With her intelligence, how could she allow the 2 of them to use her as a tool? Ever since Huangli Island's patrol team was attacked and Yang Xian and Mu Zhenling were heavily injured, Hu Lily had already guessed something. Thus, Hu Lily decisively turned around and fled towards the north. Just as Hu Lily expected, only a few mid-blood condensation demonic beasts led more than a dozen early blood condensation demonic beasts to chase after Hu Lily. The rest of the demonic beasts continued to chase after Yuan Zhon, Leng Qian, and Jiang Zixuan. Hu Lily had used up a lot of her magic power to escape to this coral island. She knew that if she continued to escape, sooner or later she would be overtaken by the demonic beasts due to the exhaustion of her magic power. Therefore, Hu Lily had laid down this frost forest array on the island. Fortunately, Hu Lily had been helping Lu Ping manage the shop on Huangli Island for the past few years, so she was quite wealthy. With Lu Ping as an alchemist, she also had plenty of healing and spirit recovering pills. With the pair of high-grade jade hairpins Lu Ping gave her and the help of the array, she managed to repel the demonic beast's attacks several times. 2 days ago, for some unknown reason, more than half of the mid-blood condensation demonic beasts had left, leaving only 2 to 3 red flag blood condensation demonic beasts and about a dozen early blood condensation demonic beasts. Hu Lily used a day to recover her magic power. Just as she was about to rush out of the demonic beast's encirclement, she noticed that Xianling sect cultivators had suddenly appeared outside the island. They hid outside the island, and the faint aura of a late blood condensation cultivator made Hu Lily afraid to act rashly. By now, Lu Ping had finally sorted out the sequence of events. Yuan Zhon told Lu Ping the wrong location and asked Lu Ping to search for Hu Lily nearby so that he could inform Zhu Weilong and the others to find Hu Lily and set up an ambush. Then, they would leave clues to lure Lu Ping into the ambush and kill him. The only thing they didn't expect was that Zhao Chongyun of the Hai Yang sect was too far away and delayed his arrival. Instead, he was spotted by Lu Ping's blue luan in the sky. Due to a freak combination of factors, Lu Ping was able to disguise himself as Zhao Chongyun and sneak into the frost forest array, killing 3 people without anyone noticing. Just as Lu Ping and Hu Lily were discussing how to break out of the 6 people's encirclement, a series of rumbling sounds of spells could be heard. The frost forest array began to shake. Clearly, the 6 people outside the array had finally realized something was amiss and began to attack. Lu Ping thought for a moment and passed the ashen mask on his face to Hu Lily. Then, he passed the jade crystal bottle containing a heart-dissolving pill to her, as well as a bunch of medicinal pills and spiritual materials that Lu Ping had no use for. He said, "I'll hold them off later. Their target is me. You take the opportunity to escape, and I'll be able to deal with them without any worries. You must wear the mask." I'm guessing that Yuan Zhon must have left some people outside Huangli Island and Tianling Mountain. The Yuan family's influence in Zhenling isn't small, so we can't let them discover us. Do you remember the coral island south of Huangli Island? The one with Pill Master Sheng Dao's secret cave abode? Hu Lily's eyes wandered around. Lu Ping smiled and said, "I was there that day too. I received Sheng Dao's inheritance, but I almost died in the hands of that snake demon. Wait for me there for 2 days. Don't return to Huangli Island. If I don't come back in 2 days, find a way to sneak into Tianling Mountain. I don't need to tell you what to do next. I trust you can handle everything on Huangli Island for me." Hu Lily knew that her arcane energy was weak, and her forte was formations. In a battle between late blood condensation cultivators, Not only would she be useless, but she would also be a burden to Lu Ping. Hence, she nodded and agreed. She then asked worriedly, the 6 people outside are all in the 8th or 9th layer of the blood condensation realm, and 2 of them are part of the North Sea's 18 generals. That Zhu Weilong's strength isn't any weaker than Miao Weidong's. Are you confident in fighting against the 6 of them? Lu Ping scrutinized Hu Lili, then suddenly smiled and said, Don't worry, I just realized that you're a beauty today. I haven't seen enough of you, so I definitely won't let these clowns get away with it. Hu Lili's fair and delicate face instantly turned red when she heard his words. Then, she said generously, I knew you were up to no good. I'm happy that you came today, so I don't care about anything else. I just hope that you can return safely. Hu Lili's words were like a wife's to her husband who was about to leave for a long time. Lu Ping's heart warmed, but he didn't promise her anything. He smiled and walked out of the formation. Even though the Frost Forest formation was exquisitely set up, it wouldn't last long under the combined attacks of a few late blood condensation cultivators. One of the cultivators used the magic artifact in his hand to bombard the magic array once more. Next, the white frost forest magic array shook and the white frost on the trees melted away. In just the blink of an eye, the trees had turned green, brimming with life. It was as though in the blink of an eye, the weather had returned from autumn and winter to spring and summer. The fallen trees were the only proof of the devastation that the small island had suffered. Just as the cultivator was about to retrieve his magic artifact, a cyan-colored sword beam shot out from the forest. Over 100 sword beams formed a simple sword array of tri-talents, which charged towards the cultivator. The cultivator didn't panic in the face of danger. He conjured up his earth energy barrier and a high-grade white bone shield appeared above his head. Seeing the rising sword rays, Miao Weidong had a bad feeling. He quickly shouted, Spiritual sword ray. Be careful, this person's sword technique is powerful. Lu Ping had already flown out of the forest and rushed towards the cultivator. At this point, there was no need for them to hide anymore. Lu Ping also recognized the 3 people who didn't speak earlier. They were the 3 late blood condensation cultivators from the Kanglang sect, Feiyu sect, and Lingjiyu sect, who had ambushed him on the nameless island. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. This Kanglang sect's late blood condensation cultivator was quite strong. With the help of his magic tool and white bone shield, he managed to withstand Lu Ping's sword technique. However, he was pushed back a few dozen meters by Lu Ping's sword. His face was pale, clearly frightened by the power of Lu Ping's sword technique. Lu Ping's face turned solemn. He didn't expect this person to be able to withstand his full power attack. Lu Ping didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he grabbed Hu Lili's hand and flung her out of the encirclement. Run. At this point, because the Kanglang sect's cultivator was pushed back, the 6 people's encirclement had been broken. With Lu Ping's help, Hu Lili immediately flew towards the west like a flying sword. No one could stop her in time. Lu Ping was worried that one of the 6 would chase after Hu Lili, so he swung the Qinghan sword in a circle and cast the Stormy Waves Crashing Shore Sword skill. This sword skill was most suited for group battles. More than 100 sword rays split into 6 waves and attacked the 6 people separately. But to her surprise, the 6 of them paid no heed to Hu Lili's departure and focused on attacking Lu Ping. Lu Ping was their target. Hu Lili was just a bait for Lu Ping. That was why they let Hu Lili stay in the Frost Forest array for so long. After a few moves, Lu Ping realized that the 6 people in front of him were far stronger than the ordinary late blood condensation cultivators he killed before. Among the 6, the strongest were Miao Weidong, He Listen, and Zhu Weilong. The other 3 were slightly weaker, but they were still stronger than ordinary 8th or 9th layer blood condensation cultivators. Lu Ping quickly felt the pressure. He realized that these cultivators were probably nurtured by their sects to become core forging cultivators. There was no need to talk about Miao Weidong and He Listen, but Zhu Weilong and the other 3 were once the leaders of their sects. They had infiltrated deep into Junling's buffer zone as bandits and survived Junling's encirclement unscathed. Naturally, they were extraordinary. Lu Ping thought to himself, in this situation, the longer it drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for me. Although my spiritual energy is much stronger than the others, the opponents have the advantage in numbers. Breaking one finger is better than injuring 10 fingers. After figuring it out, Lu Ping suddenly gathered the scattered sword lights and turned them into a green water jiao. The Qinghan sword pierced out from the top of the water jiao's head like a sharp horn, 2 jiao eyes, and 4 jiao claws, each formed by 9 sword lights. The water jiao charged at the Kang Hai sect cultivator, who was knocked back by Lu Ping's attack. The water jiao bared its fangs and brandished its claws. The Kang Hai sect cultivator was shocked. He had experienced the power of Lu Ping's sword attack. He had used up a third of his spiritual energy to block Lu Ping's attack. Because of this, his internal organs were shaken and he almost suffered internal injuries. The Kang Hai sect cultivator put the white bone shield in front of him again and the flying sword by his side. The cultivator, who was still worried, gritted his teeth and crushed a talisman. The blue and white protective energy around him instantly turned into a sticky blood-red color. At the same time, the other 5 people surrounding Lu Ping saw Lu Ping attacking the Kang Hai sect cultivator with all his might, but they did not help him. Instead, they aimed their magic weapons at Lu Ping, hoping to injure him severely. Chapter 201. Lu Ping didn't care about the other 5's attacks. He only attached the cloudy sky to Lu Ping's golden protective aura. Magic clouds flashed under his feet as he tried his best to dodge the 5's attacks. Those that couldn't dodge were hit by the 5's magic tools and spells. A series of explosions rang out, and the Azure Waves sect cultivator only had time to let out a blood-curdling scream. His flying sword had already been slapped away by the Azure Flood Dragon's claw, and the horn formed by the Azure sword struck the white bone shield, instantly shattering this high-quality high-grade magic artifact into 8 pieces. The cultivator's blood-red protective aura was clearly strengthened, but the green flood dragon coiled around the protective aura and clawed at it. The blood-red protective aura instantly thinned. Finally, as the cultivator's protective aura shattered, the sword light that formed the green flood dragon also lost its magic power. The Azure sword turned around and retreated back to Lu Ping. The Azure Waves sect cultivator heaved a sigh of relief. He finally managed to block the attack. However, he saw Lu Ping raise his hand. Under the reflection of the sunlight, the cultivator only saw a faint flash. He cursed inwardly and hurriedly tried to summon back the flying sword that was struck away by the green flood dragon, but it was too late. 2 jade blood needles pierced the cultivator's heart, destroying the core space in one fell swoop and turning the cultivator's heart into a pile of red meat paste. The Azure Waves sect cultivator died in the blink of an eye. However, Lu Ping had already withstood several attacks from the other 5. Even with the cloudy sky and the myriad meteorite poison essence shield, Lu Ping's face still turned pale. He hurriedly summoned the Azure sword back and used a sword technique to block the other 5's attacks. He was secretly shocked at their tyrannical strength. Miao Weidong and the others were even more shocked than Lu Ping. They didn't expect Lu Ping to be able to block all 6 of their attacks and kill one of them at the same time. One had to know that all 6 of them were capable of becoming personal disciples in their respective sects and were nurtured to become core forging realm cultivators. None of them weren't proud and arrogant. But now, the 6 of them couldn't do anything to this 7th-layer blood condensation realm cultivator. While they were worried for their safety, they also swore to themselves that they couldn't let this monster escape. However, Lu Ping knew that such an opportunity would never come again. If Lu Ping attacked one of them with all his strength, the others would no longer sweep away the snow in front of them. Instead, they would work together to block his attack. Moreover, the consumption of magic power and divine sense was unbearable even for Lu Ping. Since he couldn't win, Lu Ping decided to escape. Thus, Lu Ping retreated towards the west while blocking the 5 people's attacks. Miao Weidong had always been one of the leaders of the blood condensation realm in Xianling sect. He was the first to notice Lu Ping's intention and said, "He's going to escape. Everyone, we must stop him. If we let him escape today, None of us will be able to live in peace in the future. The crowd recalled Lu Ping's strength as a 7th-layer blood condensation realm cultivator. If he were to advance further in the future, none of them would be able to survive. Hence, the 5 of them unleashed their respective abilities, determined to take care of Lu Ping. Miao Weidong and Zhu Weilong worked together to block the west, so Lu Ping couldn't escape towards Junling. To the north, He Listen tried her best to delay him while the others supported her. The east was the monster race's territory, so Lu Ping naturally wouldn't consider it. If he made a mistake, he would be attacked by the monster beasts and the cultivators behind him. If that happened, Lu Ping's situation would be even worse. Miao Weidong and the others were obviously planning to drive Lu Ping into the monster race's territory. Ever since the North Sea sects attacked Golden Jiao Island, the monster race's territory seemed to have calmed down a lot. However, the monster beasts were clearly gathering instead of fighting individually. If Lu Ping panicked and ran into the monster race's gathering area, he would definitely die a horrible death. Lu Ping gritted his teeth and swung his arm behind him. A 3-inch silver jade metal seal flew out and collided with Fei Yu and Ling Jiyu. Lu Ping slashed out with his sword and another water flood dragon soared from the water's surface, flying towards He Listen with its claws and fangs bared. He Listen's expression changed. The scene of Lu Ping killing the Azure Wave sect's cultivator was still vivid in her mind. He Listen did her best to defend while shouting, "Senior Marshal Brother Miao, Senior Marshal Brother Zhu, come help me." Miao Weidong stretched out his hand and threw out a jade pendant. The jade pendant transformed into a flaming bird and flapped its wings to attack the water flood dragon. However, a crystal bowl suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. As Lu Ping cast an incantation, a huge wave 20 zhong high rose from the sea's surface and rushed towards Miao Weidong and Zhu Weilong. Miao Weidong and Zhu Weilong were ready for battle. However, Lu Ping suddenly turned around and followed behind the metal seal, rushing towards the south. The 2 cultivators in the south, one wielding an iron hammer and the other wielding a flying axe, attacked the incoming iron stamp together. However, the iron stamp suddenly expanded, turning into a huge iron stamp with a length, width, and height of 3 zhong, 3 kai, and 3 kun. Then, it charged towards the 2 cultivators. When the iron hammer and flying axe hit the metal seal, they only produced a few sparks and did not hinder the metal seal in the slightest. The metal seal continued to rush towards the 2 cultivators. The 2 cultivators looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The 2 of them simultaneously moved out of the way of the metal seal. One of them was a little too slow and the metal seal brushed past his defensive mystic tool and protective aura. The mystic tool wailed and was immediately knocked away by the metal seal. The cultivator's face turned pale and he suddenly had the thought of a mantis trying to stop a chariot appeared in his mind. Just as the 2 of them moved out of the way of the metal seal, they heard He Listen's shrill shout, "Don't let him get away." Only then did the 2 of them see that right after the metal seal, Lu Ping turned into a blue light and followed close to the surface of the sea. The 2 of them hurriedly took out their iron hammers and flying axes again, but they were blocked by the Qinghan sword. The 2 of them hurriedly drove their respective mystic tools to chase after Lu Ping, but they saw that He Listen had already turned into a light mist and was chasing in front of the 2. Lu Ping used the Qinghan sword to force He Listen to retreat. Miao Weidong had already driven an osprey towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping used the cloudy sky to protect himself and the Qinghan sword stabbed towards the osprey's abdomen. Miao Weidong hurriedly blocked the Qinghan sword. The osprey grabbed onto the cloudy sky and couldn't move an inch forward. On the contrary, the surface of the cloudy sky flashed with a golden light and the demon spiritual force in the osprey's body was instantly corroded by the myriad meteorite poison gang. The osprey screamed and hurriedly flew up. Then, Zhu Weilong tangled with him. Just like this, the few of them took turns to fight with Lu Ping, intending to consume Lu Ping's mana. Lu Ping fought and retreated, trying to avoid being besieged by the 5 of them again. The 6 of them rolled and fought all the way to the southeast, gradually entering the demon territory. The more Miao Weidong and the others fought, the more fearful they became. The 5 of them took turns to fight Lu Ping, and Lu Ping fought as he fled. Even after a whole day, Lu Ping's arcane energy was still abundant and his spirit was still high. This made the five even more fearful of Lu Ping, and they were even more determined to kill him. Just as the five of them entered the demon territory, many early blood condensation demonic beasts swooped up from the bottom of the sea to attack Lu Ping's group. However, as the six of them went deeper into the demon territory, the number of demonic beasts intercepting them decreased. The mid and late blood condensation demonic beasts that should have attacked them earlier were nowhere to be seen. Miao Weidong's group was focused on killing Lu Ping, so they didn't notice this phenomenon. Lu Ping had long been paying attention to the abnormal behavior of the demonic beasts. As soon as he noticed this, he immediately prepared himself for the worst. He listened, and the others were, after all, the elites of their respective sects. Although they didn't notice anything unusual in the monster race's sea region at first, as they ventured deeper into the monster race's sea region, they finally noticed something amiss. They secretly raised their guard and became distracted from their fights with Lu Ping. Chapter 202. Right at this moment, Lu Ping seemed to have discovered something. His face suddenly turned pale. Ignoring the attacks from the five people fighting him in a continuous battle, he used the cloudy sky to wrap the water curtain heaven flower that was fused with the meteorite prime of myriad poison and flew towards the southwest direction, guarded by the two cultivators from the Soaring Feather sect and Ling Jiyu sect. Lu Ping's sudden attack caught the five unprepared, but the five of them still tried to intercept him at the same time. Five magic tools landed on Lu Ping's body at the same time. The cloudy sky was like a cloud that was blown away, revealing a golden aura. Fortunately, the aura that Lu Ping had strengthened was able to block the five's attacks. Lu Ping's face turned pale and a faint trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. However, Lu Ping still didn't dare to look back. He took out a top-grade spirit recovery pill from his storage ring and swallowed it. The magic cloud beneath his feet flashed and he flew even faster. The five of them naturally wouldn't let Lu Ping escape so easily, but Lu Ping's actions still raised their vigilance. Miao Weidong and He Listen looked at each other as if they had thought of something at the same time. Right at this moment, a deep drum sound suddenly came from the bottom of the sea. Dong. When the five of them heard the drum sound, they simultaneously felt the magic power within their bodies fluctuate. Their flying figures couldn't help but slow down. Lu Ping, who was in front, also paused. However, he was faster than the five of them in breaking free from the disturbance of the drum sound. He continued to fly towards the southwest direction, increasing the distance between them. Dong. Another drum sound rang out and the magic power within the six of them went out of control again. This drum sound is strange. Everyone, leave this place first. He Listened, suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and said anxiously. The other four also panicked for no reason. When cultivators reached this stage, some of their senses and premonitions would also become more acute. Without needing He Listened to say anything, everyone quickened their pace. Dong. The third drum sound rang out. Miao Weidong seemed to have thought of something. This red-faced man's face finally turned pale as he cried out involuntarily, "True Spirit War Drum, it's the True Spirit War Drum. Hurry and run." When He Listened heard Miao Weidong's cry, how could she not know what had happened? She screamed, "Beast Tide, how? Why is there a beast tide now?" Right at this moment, the beating of the True Spirit War Drum suddenly became continuous. Dong dong dong. Dong 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 dong. Zhu Weilong inadvertently turned his head to look. Suddenly, his eyes widened as he looked behind him in disbelief. He saw a black line suddenly rising from the surface of the sea in the east. The black line rose higher and higher until it covered the sky and the earth. Zhu Weilong immediately cried out in alarm. When the other four heard this, they all turned around to take a look as well. The black lines that blotted out the sky turned out to be an endless horde of flying demonic beasts. A cacophony of cries came from nowhere, growing louder and louder. How could the crowd still care about exclaiming? All they had left was the thought of fleeing for their lives. Right at this moment, the blue sea behind them suddenly turned darker. It was as though something was about to float up from the bottom of the sea. Not long after, a huge splash appeared on the surface of the sea. It was as though the entire sea was boiling. The sound of water splashing rang out and countless demonic beasts suddenly emerged from the bottom of the sea. Accompanied by the beating of the true spirit war drum, they advanced towards the northern sea islands. The roars of various demonic beasts came in all shapes and sizes, shaking the world. Seeing the 5 human cultivators running away, the group of demonic beasts cried out in excitement. They immediately broke away from the huge horde of demonic beasts heading west and chased after the 5. At this moment, no one dared to look back. There was only one word left in their minds: run. At this moment, Lu Ping had already left the 5 of them far behind. However, when he heard the deafening roars of the demonic beasts behind him, how could Lu Ping dare to feel even the slightest bit of joy? Lu Ping controlled the magic cloud bracelet with all his might to flee. Under the influence of his magic power, it slowly turned into a blue cloud. Suddenly, a sound rang out. There was a trace of curiosity and surprise in the voice, clearly audible amidst the roars of the demonic beasts. To think that I would bump into a few familiar fellows here. Oh, there is also a person that this young master is interested in. The one who spoke was an ethereal voice, seemingly unconcerned about the approaching demonic beasts. Young Master Jin, Sage Jin Li, Miao Weidong and He Lisin were both cultivators who had participated in the 7-star celestial operation. Naturally, they knew who the one who spoke was. They could not stop themselves from crying out in fear. At that moment, Lu Ping felt like dying. An elegant and handsome young master with a folding fan in his hand was walking over the sea from the north. His movements appeared slow, but were actually fast. In just a few steps, he had arrived before Lu Ping. Who else could it be but the one who had caused his scalp to go numb, Sage Jin Li? Sage Jin Li had come from the north and was blocking Lu Ping's path. Without a word, Lu Ping avoided Sage Jin Li and continued to flee southwest. How could the 5 cultivators behind him still have any clear sense of direction? Seeing that Lu Ping was fleeing southwest, they also followed Lu Ping. The group of demonic beasts following behind the 5 of them also headed towards the southwest direction. Under the leadership of this group of demonic beasts, more and more demonic beasts followed the group of demonic beasts like the wind, chasing after the 5 of them. Sage Jin Li frowned as he looked at this group of demonic beasts that had gone out of control. However, compared to the massive beast tide, although this group of demonic beasts was large in number, it did not affect the overall situation. Moreover, under the stimulation of the true spirit war drum, these blood condensation demonic beasts had become abnormally violent. Even Sage Jin Li found it difficult to restrain them. Sage Jin Li coldly snorted. The reason why this group of demonic beasts had gone out of control was because of these 6 human ants. Sage Jin Li stood on the surface of the sea, not pursuing them. Instead, he clenched his right hand and a flying sword suddenly appeared in his hand. This flying sword style was exactly the same as the top-grade flying sword Sage Jin Li had used in the 7-star celestial operation. However, at this moment, this flying sword was glowing brilliantly. A mysterious and sharp chi, stimulated by Sage Jin Li's true essence, flew straight towards the 6 cultivators. Lu Ping, who was running at full speed, suddenly felt a chill run down his back. A sword intent was pointing at him from afar. He couldn't help but turn his head and see Sage Jin Li casually waving his hand. It was exactly the same as when Lu Ping had first encountered the Jin Young Master in the 7-star celestial operation. However, this time, Sage Jin Li was using the true essence of a core forging realm cultivator. A sword chi, several dozen zhong long, shot out from Sage Jin Li's flying sword. In the air, it suddenly split into over 600 sword lights. Then, the sword lights reformed into 6 swordfish, which streaked across the sea, chasing after Lu Ping, Miao Weidong, He Lisin, and the others. Seeing the core forging realm cultivators make their move, Miao Weidong and the others clearly understood that this was a moment of life and death. How could they possibly be the slightest bit lucky? They all used their trump cards and attacked the swordfish with all their might. Two cultivators from the Soaring Feather sect and Ling Jiu sect let out miserable screams as they were severely injured by the swordfish. They fell into the sea and were soon drowned in the beast tide, losing all signs of life. Zhu Weilong spat out a mouthful of blood as he struggled to keep up with Miao Weidong and He Lisin. Their faces were pale. It was obvious that they had expended a large amount of their transcendence energy to resist the swordfish. Lu Ping turned around to look at the swordfish chasing after him. This swordfish was clearly a size larger than Miao Weidong and the others, and he cursed inwardly. This sage Jin Li really thought too highly of him. Lu Ping didn't dare to hold back any longer. He wielded the azure sword with all his might, and his cultivation instantly rose from the 7th layer of the blood condensation realm to the 8th layer. His vigorous transcendence energy flowed into the azure sword along with the strong heartbeat of his heart. The azure sword flew through the air and drew over 100 sword lights, forming an azure flood dragon about the same size as the swordfish. It dove into the sea and charged towards the menacing swordfish. Sage Jin Li exclaimed in surprise once again. He didn't expect that this kid's swordsmanship had already reached the sword light psychic realm. If Lu Ping could escape with his life this time, then in the future, when he formed his gold core, he would definitely be a match for him. Thinking of this, Sage Jin Li's interest in Lu Ping grew even more. The azure flood dragon and swordfish collided in the sea, instantly creating a huge wave that blocked the path of Miao Weidong and the others who were trying their best to escape. The three of them didn't expect that Lu Ping's cultivation was actually at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. How was this possible? It had only been 3 months since he broke through to the late blood condensation realm in the 7-star skies. The 5 of them had chased Lu Ping for an entire day, yet they hadn't been able to force out Lu Ping's true strength. The 3 of them suppressed the shock in their hearts, dodged the huge wave, and continued to flee. At this time, the demonic beast horde chasing after them was getting larger and larger. Gradually, it began to affect the beast tide. What the 3 of them didn't know was that it wasn't that Lu Ping would rather be chased by them than reveal his cultivation at the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. Instead, it was because Lu Ping had some misgivings. Every time Lu Ping broke through to the blood condensation realm, he would make ample preparations and build a solid foundation. Every time he broke through, the new condensed blood bead he formed would always be 1/3 the size of the original one. Moreover, after consuming the heart-dissolving pill this time, because Lu Ping had just broken through to the late blood condensation realm, he wasn't able to make as much preparations as before. As expected, after Lu Ping luckily broke through to the 8th layer, his 8th condensed blood bead was only 1/6 the size of the previous 7 beads. How could Lu Ping feel at ease revealing his 8th layer blood condensation realm cultivation? Of course, what Lu Ping didn't know was that when most blood condensation realm cultivators formed a new condensed blood bead, it was only 1/6 the size of the original condensed blood bead. The 2 spirit beasts formed from sword lights tumbled in the sea, and the victor was decided in an instant. The green flood dragon's head and claws wrapped around its body, while the swordfish bit its back and swung its tail. However, if one looked closely, they would notice that every part of the swordfish's body seemed to have a mind of its own. It was able to adjust flexibly during the battle, and the entire swordfish looked very lively. On the other hand, Lu Ping's green flood dragon only had a pair of intelligent eyes and 4 sharp claws that were comparable to the swordfish's. The rest of its body was rigid, and it was quickly at a disadvantage as the swordfish devoured it bit by bit. Fortunately, the green flood dragon still had the Qinghan sword on its head. Before the green flood dragon collapsed, it forcefully sliced off 1/3 of the swordfish's body. The rest of the body was torn apart by the green flood dragon, leaving only a set of fish bones. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,